Okay. Well, thank you. Welcome to this public meeting and working meeting of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. We begin each meeting by introducing ourselves and starting with the three chairs. My name is Walter Olson. I'm from Frederick County. My day job is with a think tank in Washington, D.C.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Hetherington. I'm one of the co-chairs. I am president of Howard Community College, and I reside in Howard County.
Right, and I'm Alex Williams from Prince George's County, and I'm one of the co-chairs. Thank you.
Good evening, Jay Amin. I'm a resident of Anne Arundel County, and I'm a professional land development consultant. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mary Clausen. I'm a retired federal employee and a resident of Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Kim.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Kim Cummings, resident of Dorchester County, Circuit Court employee for Dorchester, also with land records and licensing. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Fussfield. I'm a communications manager for a research firm. I live in Montgomery County.
Good evening, William Tipper Thomas. I'm a senior principal systems engineer for the Department of Defense. I'm also a grassroots organizer, and I live in Baltimore City.
Thank you. And our ninth commissioner will be joining us. She is Cheryl Brooks from Baltimore County, and I'll give her a chance to introduce herself when she comes. Kristen Fleckenstein, who usually presides on the technical support side, is out this evening with an emergency issue, and we are in the capable hands of Maria Sophia. So thank you, Maria, for stepping in on this. Our next item on the agenda is meeting process and policies. This will be a brief discussion of how testimony takes place, especially for those who might be new to the process. Listen, because the instructions are important. So Maria, would you like to take that over?
Yes, thank you, Co-Chair Olson, and thank you to the rest of the commissioners. As Co-Chair Olson said, my name is Maria Sophia, and I'm in for Kristen Fleckenstein this evening. And this evening, I'd like to welcome you to the fourth public meeting of round 2 of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. Please note that round 3 will begin on October 6th, during which public testimony will also be heard by the commission. This meeting is being recorded. As we begin, there are a few matters to share regarding the rules and policies for this evening's meeting, as well as some tips about the platform that will assist our speakers in understanding how the Zoom platform will work. This meeting also offers Spanish interpretation. To listen in Spanish, you will note that there is a box on the Zoom control panel at the bottom of your screen for interpretation. Please click on that box and select Spanish. We also ask that speakers speak slowly and clearly to facilitate this. There will be a 3-minute allotment for speakers so that everyone who wants to speak may speak. When there is 20 seconds left of your speaking time, a screen share will come up on the screen with a countdown timer. Inappropriate speaking, attire, behavior, or background will result in removal from the meeting without an option to rejoin. Anyone registering to speak after 6 p.m. last night should ask to join as a speaker in the chat section, as your name may not be on the list of pre-registered speakers. You will not be able to share your screen or any maps, as they must be submitted 24 hours prior to the meeting. If you did not register to speak but want to, you can request to do so in a message to the panelist via the chat feature. There is a control bar at the bottom of your screen. Select the chat box and then send a message to the panelist indicating your name and county in which you reside. The raise hand option should not be used to request to speak. Speakers should ensure that their name is listed properly, and if not, please change it to reflect your correct name. This is because we have to move each speaker from attendee status to a panelist so that they may speak. Please note, the participant list is not public to protect the privacy of those calling in due to their phone numbers being listed. Pre-registered speakers will go first. Then chat request speakers will be called in order of request. Speakers providing testimony should be aware that they will be made a panelist when it is their turn to speak, which will enable them to unmute and turn on their camera. There may be a short delay while the speaker's screen goes from attendee to a panelist. This is normal. The speaker will see a screen message indicating that the host would like to promote you to be a panelist. The speaker needs to accept by clicking Join as Panelist button. We will wait about 5 seconds for the speaker to go live. If the speaker does not join, we will move on to the next speaker and come back at the end to call on anyone who missed their time to speak. Once speakers are finished, we must move them back to being an attendee. This may result in the speaker seeing a spinning wheel or message on their screen, indicating they are rejoining the meeting. The speaker is not being removed from the meeting. The Zoom platform is simply changing their screen. We know this is a lot of information, but we want to assist you in understanding how this meeting will operate so it can go as smoothly as possible. With that, I would like to turn it back to the host for this evening's meeting, Commissioner Walter Olson, who serves as one of the co-chairs of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. Commissioner Olson.
Thank you, Maria. Our next item of business, we are happy to have a presentation from Gloria Aparicio Blackwell. She is the unpaid advisor on Hispanic issues to our commission, has been serving in that role for some time, and we invited her to present on Hispanic and Latino concerns in the districting process, particularly after the new census numbers, which show a very substantial rise in that community in Maryland. So welcome, Gloria Aparicio Blackwell.
Promoting her, she's just coming in now.
Good evening, everyone. Maria, did you get my link for the presentation?
We did. John, John's gonna screen share your presentation real quick.
Buenas noches, everyone. I wanted to go first because I know you're eager to hear from St. Mary's County, so I didn't want to take too much time and get ready for the wonderful testimonies coming up. In the meantime, let me give a quick introduction. So once again, my name is Gloria Aparicio Blackwell. I am a community engagement professional. I'm a Maryland resident. I came from a town from Churuguara, Venezuela, 34 years ago, and I have made Maryland my home. In 2017, I began to do some research in terms about census, and we were approached by the U.S. Census Bureau to discuss about how do we count our community, in particular the undercounted immigrant communities, as well as college students. So I began the process of addressing those areas. Did you have the presentation?
Yes, he's pulling it up right now.
Okay. So I'm trying to cover some time here, so they can begin that. Excellent. So as you can see that we are growing, is a growing population, and you can see the tree as an representations of all the flags of Central America and South America. So could you go next? And we're going to be giving you a quick overview. I know that we should be presenting maps and making sure that we can showcase how the Latino population can be represented in the different districts that you are going to create. But I wanted to give you a quick overview. Who are we? What is the community? What is the Latinx and the Hispanic community? And as you can see, I presented to you once again the flags. We're not just one country. We're a representation of many countries: Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, right down here. So that's something that you put in perspective. So next slide, please. So with the census growth and what I'm seeing right now, so in the nation, in this the United States, we saw the number that we have 62 million of Latinos in the US. The state of Maryland, the population have grown to 12%. Is around, because we're 6.2 million, around 744,000 Latinos in the state of Maryland. They are concentrated, I'm going to say right now, Baltimore City, although it's set 8% an increase, we have seen a tremendous growth in that area, as well as Montgomery County, 21%, and Prince George's County. Recently, we have seen that it's emerging communities. And the emerging communities are in Frederick County at 16.4, Howard County 15.8, Charles County 13.7. As I said before, Baltimore City have grown also exponentially. And these are data not talking about just the age, the voting aging. We're talking about the entire population. And I mentioned you here the elementary school enrollment. You're saying, what does it have to do with redistricting? Well, I'm going to tell you that the pre-K to 12 or the K through 12, the Latinos right now is 30%. So this is something that it is a growing population that in 10 years, we're going to have more people voting in the process. Next. So the map that I'm going to be using, I took the liberty to thank you for sharing with me. This is the Maryland 2020 census data maps adjusted to the voting age population by precinct. So this kind of gives us a snapshot. Where are we? And as you can see, the concentration in the middle of the area of Prince George's, Montgomery. We have some sprinkler around in Frederick, as I said, is emerging communities, Baltimore City, and also Annapolis as another areas that and Arundel that we're getting the growth, and Charles County as well. And this is basically driven by the affordability that all these areas that are becoming more populous, and in this case have more, it's becoming a little bit too expensive to live in. So that's something that we're seeing changes. Next. So who are we in general? Well, in general, I'm going to tell you we're not monolithic. We're not all think alike. We're not all voting the same, exactly the same. We're not thinking in a way that everything you're going to be very predictable. As I mentioned to you, we're coming from very different countries. So that's going to be a very different in order to make the assumptions about our community. The only thing that we can have in some commonality, I will say the Spanish language. And that even is still, right now, we are getting some new languages injected with the dialect from indigenous community that are also now coming here. And why is all of this influx of many Latinos coming, particularly in the area of Montgomery and Prince George's? And it's basically because that's an area where you see families that are coming. You know that all these countries has been impacted by wars, by natural disasters, by economic situation. So they are coming where the population is going to be. And what a better place to come to the areas where I can see that are a lot of people from El Salvador, because that's one of the main communities that you can see also in this area. There's from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and also in other part of Prince George's, you're also going to be finding the Mexican community. So it's a variety of all those, the Central American and South America, that are coming to this wonderful place that is the state of Maryland. And also you're going to see that you don't see in too many other communities, which is the multi-generational. Now with COVID, I guess it's going to be in every community now, in every family that might have multi-generational, because the economics have major impact. And now you have the grandmother, the uncle, the different families living together in one place. And these individuals are coming in a way where I can be, where I can talk in Spanish, where I can find my areas of connectivity, that we have something in common. So commonality in the sense of my spices, of the food that I eat, and the rituals and the custom that we celebrate in our countries, we can find it in one place. As a matter of fact, when I talk to students, I usually say, you want to do a study abroad, and if you're going to any place in South America or Central America, I recommend you to come to Langley Park. I recommend you to go to Gaithersburg. I recommend you go to Baltimore City, so you can have a sense that you are in those countries, away from those countries. So that's the beauty of this. And then we get the entrepreneurs, and they are entrepreneurs. So that's also the other aspect that we have seen in the Latino community. No, we are all not undocumented. We are here that vote. We're here that are documented. We have individuals that are US born. So those are individuals, some of those characteristics that we had to keep in place, particular for this, as we are looking about the voting access. With the pandemic, we see that essential workers were coming from that community in rows. And why is that? Because we're in the service area, we're in the construction, we're in the healthcare and the hospitality industry. Many others communities are as well, but today we're concentrating in this group. And I'm going to say that I'm very excited, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you today, because this month, from September 15 to October 15, we're celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month. Shouldn't be just 1 month, it should be every year and every day. But one of the areas that I try to emphasize why it's so important this community has to bring to the state of Maryland, to the nation. Next one. The other aspect that I will tell you about who we are, as I said, we're not monolithic, so we're not going into the same religion. Majority, a good number are Catholic, and a good number are evangelicals and Jehovah's Witness. So that's also another aspect that brings to the table. The food diversity, we can have food from all over the places, as I mentioned before, from all these different countries. As a competition, I will say you that the Venezuelan will compete with the Colombians for the arepas and the pupusas and all of that. So that's something that we have as a way to showcase who we are and what we do. And of course, sports and soccer and baseball, even for me, baseball has been very good to me. So that's something that we really emphasize, that the importance of this community. And why am I telling you all this? Because these are the community interest. And this is what they believe. And this is what this community want to preserve. And of course, the families, the Sundays, being with the family. So that's very typical in our communities, to go to church, to go and then go to a restaurant, or to have a picnic and all of that. Next. Can we get to the next? So what are our concerns? What are we looking for an elected official or for an individual that is running for office to represent this community? When we are challenged by healthcare benefits, when we don't have healthcare, we don't have a sufficient, we cannot afford to receive healthcare, that is a problem. With COVID-19, we just saw all of that. We saw that the Latino community was heavily impacted because they were in the service industry. They had to go out and work and be exposed. And some of them were having an underlying conditions, and some of them were already didn't have a preventive medicine or preventive care. So that was a higher risk. Reliable transportation, that's another aspect that they are looking for this drawing, to make sure that when we have an elected official can be thinking about, we don't need only transportation for rush hour, but we have this community that can go at every different odd hours. So reliable transportation is going to be key, because they may not have access because they are making minimum wage to have their own vehicle, having everything that takes in order to have a reliable transportation. So that's very critical. Food insecurity, we saw it in every community, but here you can also see it at a higher level. And once again, is very, the food insecurity that we don't have so much supermarkets coming to the area. Is usually the places that they will be going is the little store, the bodega store, which is very important. But in this case, we are not having access as is in other communities have that opportunity and privilege. Affordable housing is one of the main ones that I think that every elected official will be bombarded with these questions. What are you going to be doing for us in order to get this access? Overcrowded schools, and once again, doing the work of the census is about getting the people counted that indeed will be bringing the funding and the resources allocated to this community. If we don't have a voice for this community, we're going to continue to have those issues impacted by education, where it's not going to give them the access to success to get to the next level in the economy scale. ESOL programs are critical in terms of getting the language acquisition. It's not easy. I'm going to tell you that. I've been here for 34 years. You can still hear my accent, and I tried sometimes to make sense. I'm here having calm, breathe, finish your sentence, because I have to say it in another language. It's not as easy as we sometimes think it is. So for us, it's very important to have this. College access and workforce development is the ticket to success. I am a firm believer that this is the only way that you can get out of poverty and having to contribute more to the state and to the nation. Next. So here it is. So we have the families, we have everybody coming together, everybody enjoying the beauty of being in this country and being in the state of Maryland, receiving information about COVID, receiving information about what it is to be completing the census form, receiving information about college education, and when you were facing COVID and you didn't have, you were facing food insecurity, those access were there for the kids to be in exercise and be enjoying the sport and being away from computers all day long for classes and all of that, or being on TV. Here we having the opportunity to do that. Next. So what is equitable for the Hispanic and Latinx community? As you can see, the graphic that I have in the corner right there, yes, you can give the access to be put in the community per se. Let's see, we are moving people from some aspect of Montgomery into be going into Howard County, where the number of, for them to be represented, they're gonna be minimal. They might have some access, has something to be served. But when you have equity per se, in this case, not only giving them the access to be in another district, but it also gives the access that they know that they will be able to be a representation of having the ability to vote. At this moment is, what is it, what percentage are you using in order to represent the community that are living in? Because you can be in any district, but if your presence mean nothing to the elected, to the candidate, let me tell you something, that individual will not even be considered and not even be heard about what are the challenges and what are the concerns that they need to be. So what do we want? We want fair representation. We want elected officials that listen and care. We would like political opportunity, people that look like me too be serving. And those that are serving right now, which are few, far in between, at least can also tell us that how is the road that to be traveled and to be able to be an elected official. Why not having this community showcase as we do for the Little Italy in Baltimore, or having Chinatown that is in DC, but having this community to be represented in the heart of the places that we have seen today. And also be considered Marylanders. They are Marylanders. They are growing here. They are not all recent immigrants. They are part of the fabric of this beautiful state. So am I asking you is to draw a map that preserve culture, diversity, and give political representation. This is my plea. I can give you the analytics, I can give you lines, but I'm going to tell you the story of this community that you didn't have the chance to listen, to hear in public testimonies as you did it in the past. Next. So here's the map. So as you're doing this,
reminder, we're running out of through the allotted time. So if you could just take a couple more minutes, please.
Excellent. So what I'm going to give you, the community of interest here is to preserve this aspect of population density, the family structure, as I mentioned to you, Prince George's and in Montgomery as the most populous areas. And if you can preserve that, 47B is one of the districts with the District 18 will be very important to preserve that community, as well as the area for the East County, which is the majority of the population. Once again, it's about percentage of the population in those areas that they have the access and they will be considered in the voting process. Next. And then the same, what I would like to recommend once again, the equal population, big pop representations, and preservation of community interest. Next. And once again, the state of Maryland is number 4 in the nation as the most diverse state. We should be a model showcasing a fair and equitable process. Next. Thank you. And I'm going to acknowledge the people that helped me to put this presentation together: community leaders, historian, nonprofit, faith-based, the Brendan Center, Common Cause, and local government. We're delighted to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aparicio Blackwell, for that presentation. And I'd like to ask for questions from commissioners and also from Professor Nate Pursley, our consultant, who I know needs to attend to some of these issues as part of his job. Any commissioner want to ask?
No questions. I just want to thank Gloria for that wonderful presentation that gave us some history and some facts that we need to know. So thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Let me thank you on behalf of all of us. But there was, I think Professor Pursley is raising his hand.
He has.
Yes. I am. Thanks so much. And this is wonderful. The suggestion you made about retaining state legislative subdistrict 47B is a kind of concrete recommendation that we can execute, well, that potentially, if the commission decides it's worth doing, could execute. Are there any other districts like that that you have in mind that you think would be important to retain or create to accurately represent the Latino community?
I'm sorry, I was, the system kicked me out and I couldn't hear your questions. I only heard the 47B.
Well, so 47B, I think that's a concrete suggestion for us, for the commission to consider, because that's a particular area. Are there other suggestions like that for particular districts that currently exist that you think are important to retain because they've been accurately representing the Latino community?
You know, that has been kind of the challenge at this moment because of, I know that the overpopulation that we have, you have 750,000 people that you have to kind of keep in the district. So we are trying to, so I'm going to be providing some suggestions later on. Right now, what I wanted to just to showcase some the history behind the Latino community, but 47B, that was one was concrete. So right now we're trying to figure it out what the other areas will be, but we're going to come with that. I will be submitting that very shortly.
Okay, and when you do that, one thing that might be useful is, when you look at the Latino communities of Montgomery County and Prince George's County, there's almost sort of 3 communities along yes. I mean, depending on how far you go, it could be 4 or 5, but 3 large communities. And so thinking about whether districts should be drawn around each of those communities, or trying to stretch districts to get as much of the combined community as possible. And the reason I ask that is because it may be, I've dealt with this around the country in many different contexts. And part of the question is, do individual sub-communities of a particular group, is it important for them to be together? Or is it more important to try to maximize the number in a particular district, if that is what you think is important? Because if you look at this, take a look at the Senate districts that have been also proposed, that are part of our record right now, and see whether they do a good job of representing the Hispanic community in the way that you have suggested.
Excellent. We'll do that. And so right now, one thing that we will say is to find that representation that definitely will give them a chance to have a voice. So that's the challenge. That's the thing that we will like. So we'll get back to you on that.
And Professor Porcelli, I just had a quick question. You mentioned the number of 27, I believe, and Gloria mentioned 47. Is there a difference?
No, I said 47B.
So 47B.
Did you say 47 or 27?
47B.
No, 47B. It's in the northwest corner of Prince George's County.
It's Landy Park and Tacoma.
Yeah, I didn't hear you. Thank you. You clarified.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Gloria. You did an excellent job, and I appreciate you doing the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for tonight.
We do appreciate it very much. Thank you on behalf of all of us. Okay, we now turn to the public testimony part of the evening, and we have a substantial sign-up list, and wanted to say a word or two about questions that many of those on the sign-up list may be concerned about. First, many are reacting to draft preliminary maps. It's worth emphasizing that these are indeed draft and preliminary. They are not things that the Commission has decided to do. It is decided to look at that among other alternatives, and the process very much encourages the public to call other alternatives to our attention. So it is welcome to talk about ways in which you think the map should be different from the initial draft that was put out. We are aware that there have been sample template emails that have been put out, and that many people have written emails based on those templates. I can say that although the numbers will get our attention at some point, all of us notice that it is versions of the same thing, and there can be overkill on saying the same thing many times. It is beyond that, some of you who are here for the first time may not be aware of some of the basics about the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. We were appointed by Governor Larry Hogan as a nonpartisan, non-political citizens volunteer panel with three Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 3 independents. And we have been given specific marching orders in the governor's executive order not to look at political party information, such as registration or past voting, not to look at the place of residence of any incumbent, not to consider the interests of political parties one way or the other. So in preparing your testimony, remember that we cannot respond to or pay attention to information in those categories. So with that, Maria, do you have the sign-up list of who is offered to testify tonight?
Maria is having issues with not being able to unmute after the screen was shared. So
same thing that Kristen used to have.
Correct. So if Maria is amenable to it, I'll just go ahead and call the first person.
That would be fine. And do you have the sign-up list then yourself?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
So
then please let us know the first name.
Senator Jack Bailey will be our first, and he is going to be, looks like Maria is doing that. He is going to be promoted to a panelist. Let me find his name. Oh, there he is. Senator Bailey, you're going to be promoted to a panelist. You may unmute, and if you wish, turn on your camera.
Welcome, Senator Jack Bailey.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You can, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Senator Jack Bailey. Good evening, commissioners. I represent District 29, which is the southern part of Calvert County and all of St. Mary's County. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today and for the work that you're doing to bring fair congressional and legislative districts to Maryland. It is imperative that you keep one thing in mind tonight, and that is that we want you to keep St. Mary's together. I am here today to express my concern, and a concern that I have heard from many St. Mary's County residents in recent days regarding the draft Senate map proposal that has been published by this commission. For decades, the entirety of St. Mary's County has been represented by one senator in Annapolis. Because St. Mary's County alone does not have enough population to be entitled to its own senatorial district, the district that I currently represent also includes part of Calvert County. And at times in history, it has included a small part of Charles County. It has been an honor to represent the residents of Southern Calvert County as well as St. Mary's County for the past 3 years. And it would be the same honor to represent the residents of Charles County as well if given that opportunity. The Southern Maryland delegation works together on a variety of issues that affect all 3 counties, but St. Mary's County has its own unique set of issues that are best addressed by having one senator representing the entire county. This plan, as presently constructed, would sever portions of Mechanicsville, Oakville, Hollywood, and California from the rest of St. Mary's County. The area being carved out includes part of St. Mary's County Innovation District. It includes St. Mary's County Regional Airport, the University of Maryland at Southern Maryland, which the St. Mary's delegation has worked hard to help support the growth of this area, and separating parts of it from the rest of the county just don't make sense for the future economic opportunities offered by this region. With the Naval Air Station Pax River and the associated businesses and contractors, we are now one of the largest employers in the state of Maryland. I think we just are now second. This split of St. Mary's County has the potential to create a variety of obstructions and obstacles for the military base and the related businesses that are the backbone of the economy of St. Mary's County. Almost 80% of our workforce is associated with NAS Pax River, and we need to maintain cohesive government representation to continue to support this large economic driver, which affects the entire state of Maryland. Our constituents, who for several decades have known who their state senator is simply because they live in St. Mary's County, will now have to know which side of this arbitrary district line they live on to find their representative. For those living in this carved out portion of the county, they will go from having a senator focused on the entire county to one representing a part of St. Mary's County, Anne Arundel, and all of Calvert County. This will work against the interests of St. Mary's County residents having access to approachable and available representation, which I believe should be a priority of state government. This objection is not partisan in nature. It is only about ensuring that the residents of St. Mary's County have the representation that they deserve in Annapolis. While I know that some splitting of counties is inevitable in any plan, I firmly believe that St. Mary's County should continue to remain together at the state Senate level, a model that has worked to benefit the county and our residents for decades. There's quite a few people who have signed up to testify tonight. Please hear them and hear that we need to keep St. Mary's together. Thank you, commissioners, for your time. I will answer any questions, and I look for your attention to these concerns.
Thank you, Senator Bailey. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, thank you again, Senator.
Walter, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
We got it fixed. Our next speaker is Delegate Matt Morgan. And Delegate Morgan, you are now a panelist.
Okay, do you hear me?
We do.
Okay, thank you for having me again, Commissioner. Thank you all for serving on this commission. I know it's a difficult job to do these redistricting maps. I know they seem to make no one happy. I do want to address the map that was just released by the commission. And I think a reason why you have so many people testifying was the September 14th map dealing with state legislative redistricting. And that's my computer's jumping around with me. Little Zoom issue. For the last 40 years, St. Mary's County has been pretty much kept intact and as whole during the redistricting process. We've had a lot of growth down here in St. Mary's County, as well as all of Southern Maryland. And I think a district is about 331,000 people. Now, St. Mary's County makes up about 113,000 people. So in the past, we've always had a small section of Calvert County or a small section of Charles County. Now, I do want to give the commission a benefit of the doubt when I saw this map. Currently, with us having a small portion of southern Calvert County, maybe they thought that taking a portion from St. Mary's and adding it to Calvert and Anne Arundel was acceptable, but really, I don't think that took into the community needs and what this community actually is like down here. If you're in South Calvert, there's a good chance that you go almost daily, in some cases, over the St. Mary's County. You cross the Thomas Johnson Bridge, and basically that's where you're shopping, and a lot of people work over here because of the base. But if you're from the area that's getting drawn into the predominantly Calvert County district that's attached with Anne Arundel County, if you're a resident of Mechanicsville, Hollywood, California, very rarely do you ever drive over to Calvert County or even north of Prince Frederick. I mean, to attach these communities with communities like Dunkirk or Shadyside or even Edgewater, they're just dissimilar communities. And fully support Anne Arundel. I fully support Calvert County being a whole district, but that district could easily move north further into Anne Arundel County because you're already there, rather than taking a section, which really is the economic engine for St. Mary's County, out of St. Mary's County, leaving us a huge, a gigantic district of rural area. Comparing this with the map, I'm looking at it from the southern tip to the corner up there in Charles County, that would be Point Lookout to Indian Head. It would take you about 2.5 hours to drive that. And it looks to be about the third largest district in the entire state. And it just doesn't, it just breaks up communities. And much like your earlier speaker doing the presentation on equity with the Latino community, look, like-minded communities deserve to stay together. And if you're in Nanjemoy or Welcome or Port Tobacco, an area that I know extremely well because I grew up there, very rarely do you head down to St. Mary's County to Leonardtown or to Mechanicsville or any of those areas. So I would just ask that the commission going forward take a look at some of these rural areas. I know it's a problem when you make adjustments up north, stuff starts coming downstream, and we take the brunt of it in the rural areas. But I would simply just ask to keep St. Mary's intact and whole during this redistricting process. And I thank you again. And I'd be happy to answer any questions to the committee, because I know this is the second time I'm speaking in front of you, once on the congressional redistricting as well.
Are there any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. This is Alex Williams. I want to say that.
Good to see you, Judge.
Yes, I assure both Delegate Morgan and Senator Bailey that we are certainly going to take into consideration these comments. They're very, very helpful, and we assure you we certainly be listening.
Well, and you know, I realize this is a preliminary draft map, but my also experience in Annapolis has told me that once you see something, you know, if they're asking for citizens' input, citizens need to give input, because if it's detrimentally impacting them, snowballs roll downhill, I'll say. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Morgan. Maria, who do we have next?
Our next panelist is Guy Martin. Guy Martin, you are now a panelist.
Mr. Mr. Martin, you're muted. Mr. Martin, if you can find, good, you got it. You're unmuted now.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. My questions were relating to preventing a dilution of the representation. Where are we going to be able to stay with, say, state delegates at 30,000 persons to 33,000 persons, where they were only 34,000 in the last decade? Another question would be, as far as the state senators, there is no real constitutional mandate that we maintain the same number of delegates every decade, same number of senators every decade, to prevent dilution and debasing of the vote, which may even help those previous gentlemen as far as a delegate and state senator, where if you can reduce the size of the Senate districts to perhaps even 2 state delegates per state senator, one for 66,000 or 60 to 66,000 persons per. The rule really is that they're only the same number of persons per legislator in the legislative body, and that the professor's helping with leaving it at 5%, so you can go up or down, because the court has ruled it has to be within 10% for all the districts of the legislative body. The other thing I'd like to ask is there any chance you can look at the Title II, Section 2B of the United States Code, where it's the method of most equal proportions? Because there does seem to be a lot of dilution of the federal say in the federal House. And that title does grant to the president the authority to assign people, but in that very federal statute, it also, in Section 2B, it says the method of most equal proportions. And since we are the citizens that face this injury of a dilution of representation, where Maryland had 8 representatives in 1792 with 237,000 persons. In the last decade, we have 5.7 million. We're still 8. So the other point would be, as far as legislative bodies and the court rulings, is there any way you, representing us, can get our equal say, where we were 1 for 721,000 persons for a House member? Other states had 1 for 500,000 persons. I found no one who wants to live in a 700,000 or a 900,000 person district when there are people with 500,000 person districts. We have to figure out how we could get to an equal number among the 50 states.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We've run out of time, Mr. Martin. I would point out for those who are watching the screen also that the congressional map that flashed on it is not a map from the commissioners. It is a map submitted by a member of the public, and so don't want to mislead people about where that map came from. It came from a submission from a member of the public. But thank you, Mr. Martin, for your comments and your suggestions.
Well, we are gaining 50,000 more persons per district. It is a dilution of our
I think you're going to find that our commission cannot change that aspect of the federal system. You would need federal action in Congress or through a constitutional amendment, but we appreciate the point, which is a good one. Maria, next name on our list?
Yes. So we actually have a couple people that haven't shown up yet. Ms. Zalika Bazemore, Ms. Montasha Sims, and Demba Nindaye, which means Ms. Linda Dorsey Walker is our next panelist. Ms. Dorsey Walker, you are now a panelist.
Good evening. My name is Linda Dorsey Walker. I have the unique opportunity of having visited nearly every single county in the state of Maryland during my career working for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene and also in social services. So I have the perspective of one who has seen constituency groups and minority groups throughout the state of Maryland. And I'd like to draw on that experience as I have prepared my map. The proposed New Horizons Group Congressional Redistricting Map follows basic principles of redistricting, specifically compactness, contiguity, and reflects the expressed wishes of various community of interest that you've heard from. Whenever possible, attempts were made to create districts in which entire counties were kept intact. You've heard some people talk about that tonight. In almost every case where a district was split, it occurs just one time. In fact, as many as 19 counties on my map that I've proposed have been kept intact in total, and only 5 have any splits at all. So therefore, the map does reflect one of the governor's wishes and some of the wishes expressed by the people who have come on over these months. This map respects the wishes of many of the Eastern Shore residents that you've also heard from tonight, who stated that they have historically been linked to portions of Southern Maryland, areas like St. Mary's County, Calvert County, portions of Charles County, and Lower Anne Arundel County. Therefore, a decision, as you can see, was made to cross the bay and respect that 60-year tradition of keeping those areas together, communities of interest. Now, we also heard from at least 1 or 2 people that there are certain areas of Charles County that are much more urbanized than they have been in the past, and therefore have been, their areas need to be respected as well. So this map includes that more urban northwest portion of Charles County as part of District 5, connected to Prince George's County, and has that district extend from Prince George's County up to and including Annapolis. Nearly 1/3 of the proposed District 8 in Montgomery County is Hispanic. It concentrates their power and force in that county in a way such that it will allow them to potentially have as many as, well, not only to have the opportunity down the road of potentially mounting a strong congressional effort, but in a second map, which I will also send forward, they will have at least 2 legislative seats. A small portion of Baltimore County is shared with Baltimore City, not to the southwest, as is currently the case, but instead to the southeast, where it picks up important African-American areas that have been overlooked in the past. Turner Station, Cherry Hill, going down into Brooklyn and northern Glen Burnie. You'll also notice that even though most of the geography of Baltimore County would be a part of District 2, it would be linked to Harford County, and it would give more focused attention with just those 2 counties hooked together on some of the younger urban transient military populations that surround Aberdeen and Edgewood Arsenal and Bel Air and Havre de Grace. I think that will be to their advantage. Even though more than half the land is in District 2, it's only half of Baltimore County's population, because the other half will be in District 3 and will be linked to Howard County. That will will connect us and concentrate a lot of the Southeast Asian population that we talked about, and respects their presence in northern Catonsville, going out to Ellicott City, going over to Columbia. And that will allow District 3 to mostly be comprised of Howard County, Baltimore County, and go down into portions of Anne Arundel County. I believe finally that this map has been presented for your consideration does make an earnest effort to significantly change what exists in the gerrymandered situation that we have now, but obeys all of the redistricting rules. And I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey Walker. Just to confirm, we are speaking about map number 1035, I believe, for those who are following.
No, that's 1036.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1036. Thank you for
In fact, it
correcting me.
appears duplicated. 1036 and 1037 are the exact same map, but for some reason they've been given two numbers.
Thank you very much for that correction.
I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay. Hearing none, thank you once again, Ms. Dorsey Walker. And Maria, who is next on the list?
Yes, so we have another person that has not shown up, Mr. Jay Smith. So our next speaker is, apologize if I butcher it, is Benjamin Shevchuk. Benjamin, you are now a panelist.
Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My thanks to the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission for hosting this opportunity to provide input on the preliminary draft legislative districting map. I reside in California, Maryland with my wife, Cheryl, and I've left active duty service in 2018 after more than 20 years in the U.S. Navy and became a Maryland resident. For my entire Navy career, I voted as a resident of the state of Oregon. Now that we're established in Maryland, I greatly value the opportunity to be connected and active with local politics. That's why these decisions about legislative districts are so important to me. My last two assignments in the military were as the commanding officer of Naval Air Station, Patuxent River, and as the Naval Air Systems Command Inspector General. I greatly appreciate the incredible support our Navy always received from the communities and elected officials across St. Mary's County. They are amazing teammates in meeting our mission of research, development, test, and evaluation. As the CEO of the Navy base with 20,000 employees, some of them from Calvert County, my office mate comes from Calvert County every day. When you combine the military, government, and contractor personnel, it's vital for us to interface directly and regularly with those in office whose decisions impact and enable our mission. My wife is a teacher, a staff member at St. Mary's Riken High School in Leonardtown. She's the director of the school's international program. She coordinates with families across the county who host and befriend 20 international students. These young people came to our county for a great college prep education, and we want to keep them supported by the elected officials who live here around them. The proposed map that I've seen has the potential to drastically alter St. Mary's County. It will realign several neighborhoods, including mine, according to a more regional approach to state government. The central area of St. Mary's County that I call home, from Mechanicsville south through Hollywood to our residents in California, would be separated from St. Mary's County and reassigned to vote in a legislative district with Calvert and Anne Arundel counties. I don't understand why this is being proposed by the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. And I'd like to hear an explanation from the commission for this extraction and realignment of my neighborhood. Perhaps you needed to add some population to Delegates District 27. If it's for another reason, which I think that just moving population around isn't logical. If it's for another reason, I'm eager to hear the commission's rationale. This change you're recommending will have a negative impact on our St. Mary's County citizens by separating us. Residents like me who would be artificially bolted onto a district primarily focused on serving Calvert and Anne Arundel counties will not be better served by our state elected representatives under the proposed redistricting. I've always been thankful to see how available and accessible our St. Mary's County officials are. Senator Bailey recently gave me a timely response to a question I had just before he headed out to his child's soccer game. I know I can contact them easily and will not have to leave a message at an office that's hours away. These redistricting changes will impact our businesses and citizens since we will no longer have a cohesive form of representation. My fellow citizens and our county commissioners would have to work with a variety of legislatures across this proposed Southern Maryland region to get help with local government and county issues.
Mr. Shevchuk, you've reached the end of your time. Thank you for your presentation. I know there have been inquiries about why does the commission hold public testimony to 3 minutes, especially when one of our own advisors was given time for a more ample presentation. We have kept that 3-minute rule throughout what is something like 10 public hearings now, and it is a requirement that hundreds of people before you have all been asked to observe. So we understand your concern, but please, thank you for your patience in staying to your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. There was also in chat a question about whether everyone who submitted written comments, which we value greatly, everyone could count on their being read. I assure you that we will read them all, and that definitely goes for the large files as well as the small files. My comments about prepared multiple submissions doesn't change that in any way. All submissions will be read. So thank you, Maria. Who is our next speaker in line?
Yes, our next speaker is Jay Smith. Jay, you should be now a panelist.
Good evening, panel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your time this evening. Let me speak on the matters at hand here. As a 20-year blue-collar union member in DC, living in St. Mary's County, I feel I have a unique perspective on why these lines should not be redrawn, taking us from St. Mary's and putting us into either Anne Arundel or Calvert. 20 years inside DC, I've started to notice the national flavor of politics bleed out into our county levels. The school board we used to go to in Charles County started proposing these CRT kind of ideas and things like that. And as soon as St. Mary's, a traditional Christian community, has representatives that are more geared towards national level politics, as in, you know, transforming how people think and feel about education, communities, and cultures, that would greatly impact our traditional rural area. And, you know, we saw the low income areas of DC, they were torn down so high rise, high rent condos could go up. Those people were relocated to areas like Lexington Park, PG County. And when that happens, you see our local representatives in the newspaper. I read a story last summer in St. Mary's Times. A local St. Mary's delegate was saying the reason for minority crime and poverty was because of white racism. And that is a quote from his interview in the newspaper. So, like I say, DC politics looks like it's trying to bleed out into the rural areas, and I'm not a fan of that. And I'm sure plenty of other people in these areas will tell you that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for your comments. Maria?
Yep, our next speaker is Katie Stipple. Katie, you are now a panelist.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. There might be a sound problem. Please say more so we can tell whether there's a sound issue.
Okay, I'm Katie Stickle, and I live in Nanjemoy, Maryland, which is in Charles County. Is that good?
Yes, you do sound good now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm referencing basically the map of St. Mary's that reaches up and grabs part of Charles County and comes around and grabs Nanjemoy, where I live. And the issue is that mixing Nanjemoy, which is very rural, very middle class, lower income, with an area like St. Mary's County, which from an economic development standpoint is thriving, would not be a good good match. And the reason being is that we're already the red-haired stepchild of Charles County. So if you pull us out in this way, it's going to make it that much harder for us to figure out which part of the government is supposed to be assisting us, whether issues, and I think it will leave the door open for a lot of finger pointing that this one's supposed to take care of that, or that one's supposed to take care of that, and so forth. And then looking at St. Mary's as being part of it being given to Calvert County. Sometimes doing what is the most simple is the best way to go. It creates less unintended consequences. And based on the definition of these areas, contiguous and compact, yes, the map is contiguous, but it's not compact when it reaches around and crosses the county like it does. So I would just ask, and I know this is a difficult job, and we appreciate all the work that you folks are putting into it, but to mix the Sanjamoy in with St. Mary's, and then to give part of St. Mary's to Calvert, it just seems like just leave Sanjamoy with Charles County and give part of St. Mary's, take it back from Calvert and leave it with St. Mary's. It's just very simple and clean that way. I thank you for your time and look forward to the next hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Tickle. Maria, who's the next name?
Our next panelist is Betty Ann Quaid. Betty, you are now a panelist.
Ms. Quaid, you need to unmute yourself if you can find the button to do that.
I got that. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Hi. Sorry about that. My name is Betty Ann Quaid. I own a restaurant. I own Seabreeze Restaurant on the Patuxent River. I am concerned that if we are pulled over into the Calvert County up towards Anne Arundel County, that we will no longer have a voice for things like our, for tourism, economic development, things in our area. I feel like we will be lost without representation. Many people have already spoken about keeping St. Mary's County together, keep it together. And I'm in total agreement with that. I also own a house in the same area. It feels like the last speaker just said, it feels very forced to be moving in part of Charles County and to be extracting part of St. Mary's County to move it over. It just makes more sense just to keep it all together. So I'm questioning why we would want to break up the county in that manner. So, to have some reasoning for that. And I don't see any benefit for having a representative that, lives an hour and a half or 2 hours, or that, would be elected maybe from Anne Arundel. That's about a 2-hour drive from where we are, an hour and a half anyway, drive from where we are. We wouldn't know who to contact. We've had multiple natural disasters, hurricanes. We have many restaurants on the river that have been flooded to the point of being closed, some for an entire season and some for 3 and 4 months. Who do we reach out to when we need immediate assistance and things like that? So we know our elected officials down here. They live with us. We're familiar. And I feel like our voice, we have no voice if you just arbitrarily, it feels like, kind of push us to another portion of the state.
Thank you, Ms. Quaid. Maria, could you tell us who is next on the?
Our next speaker is Lance Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you are now a panelist.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my apologies. I don't have video. I'm having some difficulties with that. However, I am a resident of St. Mary's County. I'm a lifelong Marylander. I was born and raised in Prince George's County. Went off to the service, lived in Northern Virginia for quite a few years while I was serving. And then once I got out, I am now a tech professional for over 35 years. And I do have familiarity with Charles County. I have family that live in Nanjemoy, Maryland. And like, as I said, now I live in St. Mary's County. And I find that each of the three counties have their own unique challenges and unique variances of what they require their elected officials and legislators to represent them and their needs for their communities. So I would like to see, based on the map that you guys had put forth for the 9-14-21, I would just like to be firm that I would like to see not only St. Mary's County remain intact, but I'd like to see Calvert, and I'd like to see Charles County, and I'd like to see PG County stay intact. I know it's a challenge because of the diverse number of population between the various counties. But again, I think it's very important that the elected officials and legislators for each of those counties remain close to the people, to their constituents, so that they can listen and they can care and they understand the community's unique challenges that they represent. And that's pretty much all I had to say. So I just want to be officially put on the record, and I'll also add that to my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Our next
Maria?
speaker is Robert Spear. Robert, you are now a panelist. And Robert also has a map he submitted, map number 1035. And I believe John will be putting that up as well.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, I submitted a map. Actually, I submitted a map that you're looking at, 1035, which gives a hint of what I am proposing. But the hand-drawn map that is part of, it's actually on page 10 of the handout that I sent you, is much more useful for describing this. So anyway, here's my basic thrust. We should have as our organizing principle for any kind, congressional districts as well as legislative districts, the idea that we have equal populations as much as possible in each district, that people who live close together should be in the same district, and that we should ignore all other considerations. When I say ignore all other considerations, what I mean to say is that when you start drawing maps based on somebody's community of interest or to favor one particular community, you inevitably disfavor other communities. And we would all be better off. And we have a long history of gerrymandered not only districts, but county borders that go throughout the 50 states. Borders that have been drawn for political reasons or for a particular immigrant population at some point in time, and so on. We would be better off if we ignored all of those and simply used proximity. I define proximity as people who live in the same zip code should vote in the same district. Now, zip codes, of course, are a collection of mail delivery routes. They're not geographic. So the Census Bureau created zip code tabulation areas to surround zip codes with borders. And I would like to use the ZCTAs. Unfortunately, the software that we are using for your, that the Maryland Redistricting Commission is using, has counties and voting districts and census tracts, but it did not have ZCTAs. I spent hours on this map trying to get it to match my my own maps with ZCTAs, but since you don't support ZCTAs, I couldn't really do it, and that's why my hand-drawn map is probably a better representation. You can actually see the suggestion. So my idea is that you start and draw the longest line you can between any two parts of the state that have not yet been assigned to a district. Initially, that would be from the upper northwest corner of the state down to the southeast corner, and you pick the western end of that as the starting point, and then you draw your district by adding zip code tabulation areas to it. It will end up with about the District 1 that I showed, and you do that all the way across the state. You draw a new line after you've drawn each district. So I hope that you will consider this. It certainly, I think, is better than trying to balance all of the communities of interest that we clearly have. But you guys are doing an absolutely outstanding job, and I thank you, the citizens of Maryland, thank you for your help and service.
Thank you, Mr. Spear.
Our next speaker is Howard Thompson. Mr. Thompson, you are now a panelist.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to give testimony this evening, and like to thank the commission for their service on this board. It's very important. I live here in Hollywood, Maryland. Our county's development district is within the new borderlines of your new proposed redistricting plan. The cooperation between Tucson River Naval Air Station, which adjoins this district, the supporting contractors that back up the Naval Air Station, and the supporting businesses need our local government team to keep the cooperation balanced. No disrespect to our county, but they are not familiar with the day-to-day operations that between the Naval Air facility and the business and contracting world that is supporting them. It's a fine line that our representatives have followed with the diversity within our community. Also within this area, our high-density residential districts, along with the innovation district, needs the support of knowledgeable representation to help with the roads and the infrastructure that matters. Please review and reconsider the movement of our redistricting boundaries. We need representatives for our whole county, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Before I go to our chat, our chat sign up, I just want to read out the ones that have not, if I have not been able to to be called. I need Zalika Bazemore, Vontasha Sims, Demba Nindaye, Derek Adams, Marcus Castro, Melissa Thorne, Stephen Baden, John Miles. If any of you are on this call, please let us know so that we can make sure that you testify tonight, but we have not been able to find you in our list of attendees. With that, our next speaker is Todd Morgan. Todd, you are now a panelist.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I apologize. I'm technologically challenged, as many people know. I
You're
want
doing
to
fine.
thank you, Safety, for your time on the redistricting committee. I'm a commissioner from St. Mary's, also a defense contractor, and I believe breaking up St. Mary's County will be detrimental not only to the community but to the state. I'm not sure if you're quite aware, but Pax River is a Fortune 500 company in terms of dollars. And as Senator Bailey and Captain Shevchuk noted, probably one of the top 5 employers in the state. It's critical from our point of view, both as a contractor, a commissioner, to have representation that understands the needs of this community. It's been very difficult over the years sometimes to address that particularly in the Annapolis arena. And as the map is drawn now, we could be represented by an individual from Anne Arundel County. Some of you may remember the great wind turbine debacle we had a number of years ago when Governor O'Malley thought that we could just throw some turbines out in the Atlantic Ocean and everything would be fine and dandy. And it literally took intervention from Congressman Hoyer and Senator Mikulski to show the detrimental effect of not understanding the local needs of this community. So as we look at the 20 to 25,000 jobs that the base provides directly, I think about 3,000 of them are in Calvert, but the rest are here in St. Mary's. It's important that we keep this functional unit working together and operating in a smooth and cohesive manner, such that the needs and concerns of the community, the needs and concerns of the Navy, and the needs and concerns of the community can be addressed in a whole. And with that, I want to thank you all very much for your time this evening and your service to our state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan.
Our last speaker is John, I believe it's John Patterson from Baltimore County. John, you are now a panelist.
John, can you unmute? We got your video, John. Still don't have your audio till you unmute. Got it. Good.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So my thing is relevant to the discussion we were just having. I'm for counties being separate districts as much as possible. The thing that's holding it up is the equal population requirement. If you didn't have that, you could have people could have their counties being a separate district. I have a thing called the Franklin divisor process, and it's based on 3 principles. Apportionment, which is no rounding of apportionment of the states and county populations. Redistricting, whole counties are the basis for establishing districts with county leaders giving recommendations. We don't have the county leaders giving their input here. Election of multi-delegate districts. We need multi-delegate districts but there be countywide at-large candidates with open primaries and voters with a single vote to cast in each election. Let me look at St. Mary's County and see what my program would do there. St. Mary's County has 113,958 people in it, according to the new census. The divisor for the census is 130 for the Senate. Map. Do we have the Senate map up? Can we get it up?
You would need to point us to which Senate map. There are multiple drafts.
1038.
Okay.
John, can we put 1038 up?
Averaging through for it now, so it takes a while for it to come
All right, great. The divisor, you take the state population, you divide by 47 votes, and you get 132,000, and that becomes your bogey. And instead of making everything have to do that, shit. Oh well. Okay.
Mr. Patterson, we're running out of time, but I'd like to ask if John could project your map, and then there's another map that we should project. before we move on. But is there a chance to project John Patterson's map for at least a few moments before we?
That would be great.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, you'll see that I've got separate counties as Charles County, St. Mary's County, Calvert County are all separate counties.
Mr. Patterson, you are out of time. Those who like can find the map on the public map register or can screenshot it here. You will notice the population variances which appear in the black boxes under the number of the district, and that will give people a lot to chew on. But while we are waiting, I would like if John could call up map number 1036 to display after Mr. Patterson's map. John, is that something you can get? The reason is that several speakers earlier, Speaker Linda Dorsey Walker presented, but owing, I guess, to a technical mix-up, the map that she was referring to did not appear on the screen. I'd like her to have a chance to have her map displayed for a minute or two so that people can take a look at it again, can screenshot it if they don't want to go to the website, and can have a chance to save it for reference. And then after we've had that chance to share Mr. Patterson's map and Ms. Dorsey Walker's map, we can move on to what may be the last commenter of the evening. Thank you again, Mr. Patterson, for your presentation.
Yeah, Walter, is it possible that we can go back over the rules of engagement as far as map submission and being able to present at the same time? Because apparently there's some misunderstandings on how that's supposed to work in the group chat and the chat.
Yeah, I may not have all those answers myself. Maria may and staff may have some of that, but could we, in the meantime, John, could you get map number 1036 up on the screen so that people have a chance to look at it while we're talking about procedural issues? Good. Okay. Now, William, did you have a question formulated more specifically as to what we should talk about on the public map submission records? It has been a learning process, I know, and has it's the first time that we're dealing with it at this kind of scale. But Maria, do you have any comments about the timing issues on map 1036?
Yes, so just for everyone's knowledge, when people register for public meetings, there is a registration. In the registration, there's a section where people can submit the map number. And we ask that people submit their maps before they register for our meetings, so that way they get that number back from our team when it gets uploaded to the website, so that they know what that unique identification number is. So when they register, we have those identification numbers. Tonight, the maps that were able to be shown were because people, when they registered, had that identification number, and we were ready with those maps along with the names of the people that registered. So if anyone had registered and then submitted a map, that identification number was not with their registration. So that's probably why there has been a little bit of us going back looking at the maps, because we ask that people typically that they register after they get that map ID number, so we can make it go more smoothly. So if that clears up any confusion, that may help.
Thank you, Maria. And again, just for the record, the map currently displayed on the screen is map number 1036, I believe, by commenter Linda Dorsey Walker. Maria, did you mention that there was one more sign up?
Yes, we had one more signed up in the chat, David Willenberg from, I believe, St. Mary's. David, you are now a panelist, and John will adjust the screen. So.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
My name is David Willenborg. I live in Hollywood, Maryland, which is the section of concern for many tonight. But section of St. Mary's County being moved over to, I believe, Senate District 27. The proposed map I'm talking about is the September 14th map, 2021. I would just like to just add to Commissioner Morgan's comments that, we need a person here that represents us who's really committed to the community. I have concerns if there's a senator that lives an hour and a half from here and that's his home or her home, that they may not necessarily be the have the commitment as somebody who's local. And so when you get difficult problems like the windmill incident, proposal a few years ago, it takes people who are very committed to be able to sit there and protect the assets here in St. Mary's County. I think we're going to be not as well represented if we do not have a senator and state delegates that are local and are close to the problem at hand. That's all I have to say. I just thank you again for the opportunity, and good luck with your search for the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willenborg. Reaching the end of the public commenters, we now move on to the next part of the program, listed as review of draft illustrative maps with expert. And we've got several possible agenda items that I hope we can get through this evening that may seem somewhat unrelated to each other. Let me start by talking about our chance to talk more about publicly submitted congressional maps. We realize that not all of the publicly submitted congressional maps have come in yet. There's still a few more days. We realize that not some of them are still being processed, but we requested the commissioners as of last Friday to look at the ones that had come in by last Friday and to flag for us those that they would like to discuss among the full commission. And this might mean that the entire map has some excellent quality. It might mean that one corner or one county of the map has a good solution to a difficult problem or is in some other way worth looking at. And the commissioners have responded with the numbers of 10 maps, which I hope are on deck, ready for us to look at them one by one. Let me emphasize here that for a map not to be on this list does not mean that it has not influenced us or been discussed. We have looked at all the maps. Some of the maps that are not on this list have in fact figured in our discussions, and we may already have picked up an idea from a particular map. So the public maps are pervasively useful, if I could call it that. They have helped us in many different ways. But with that, I'd like to call up the 10 congressional maps. We will postpone probably for another day the legislative maps that people have proposed through the website. But the first one is 1002. If I got the number right, 1002. And I'd like to particularly invite those commissioners who flagged the maps as something that they wanted to discuss. Feel free to jump in and lead the discussion, because we do want to hear especially why it's noteworthy from a positive standpoint as a good way to open. So would someone like to speak on 1002?
Yes, I can speak kind of from having conversation with Cheryl about the split that is proposed in this map for Baltimore County. I'm pretty sure she's not going to like that.
Yes, I think I thought that was the first thing that came to my eye also. Thank you, William. And because Cheryl is not with us, thank you in particular for making her voice heard at one remove, because we will see other maps that also split up Baltimore County quite a bit, and we should keep that in mind. Any other comments on 1002?
Walter, or Chair Olson, I just wanted to comment that
At a surface level, the Eastern Shore district, heavily covered here, also reaches across to a majority of Anne Arundel County, and and obviously there's a transportation linkage with the Bay Bridge, but I'm concerned that maybe Anne Arundel County is going to be kind of cut in half, and a good portion of the county, and then therefore is associated with the Eastern Shore, and maybe not getting a fair chance of representation in that particular respect. So.
Thank you. Kim, Mary, anyone else want to speak to that point?
I'll speak up that I think it would really put together two pieces of Maryland that are not closely associated. The dense population in that portion of Anne Arundel County that includes around Annapolis is quite different, and also the commuting to DC and Baltimore makes it a much more urban centered population and different requirements from the agricultural nature of the Eastern Shore. So I am not in favor of that split.
Any more comments?
Mary, I'd like to say thank you, that I do agree with you in regards to the Anne Arundel County population being much more different than the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Kim. Any other comments, or should we move on to 1005?
I was going to say that split in Montgomery doesn't seem as indicative of Montgomery in general. It's in all our discussions and data, it seems to point more towards a split being closer to Frederick as opposed to Howard.
I would certainly back that up. I think that the strip of Montgomery that is across the river from Howard is not really a great community of interest bridge. It's quite a few different kinds of community on the Montgomery side. I just don't think this does well on community of interest issues on that part of Montgomery. But any other comments? Okay, can we move on to 1005? Any comments for or
I
against?
do have a comment that this would not be a preferred map for Howard County. It's in 4 different congressional districts. So I'm saying the obvious, I think, here, but.
My notes say, next to this number, my notes say Kate. So thank you for speaking up, Kate.
Sure.
Any other comments?
I'll copy and paste my same response for Cheryl from the previous map. And just from a Baltimore City standpoint, I don't like how it doesn't make sense how the map is split for Baltimore City.
Other comments?
Yeah, I'd agree with both of those comments from Kate and William. And I think that Prince George's, as it is seen here, District 4 would have more in Montgomery County that you would want. So I would just disagree with that.
Any other comments?
I also feel that Western Maryland is getting a little too much of Montgomery County. It's coming too far down. And for the reasons that Kate has said, I agree with Kate.
Judge, in terms of that, it's hard to tell from this tie up, but I think that part of Montgomery County grabs is the more agricultural area. So it is a bit closer, but you're right. I don't know if it should be coming that far down into Montgomery County.
Yeah, it looks physically mistaken to me because I think there's just too much population in that slice of Montgomery. But again, these maps are not always made to be consistent with equal population. We always need to keep that in mind.
My concern was Baltimore County, this split there does not seem to do service to Baltimore City, and also the splits in Baltimore County seem excessive there.
Any other comments, or should we move on to 1008?
I guess I will offer some comments here. It looked interesting enough to me that, again, not knowing exactly where there's population splits that are achieving, equal population, but allowing for the fact that some central counties are going to get split. It looked like Baltimore City was kept intact with some adjacent, reaches of Baltimore County. Of course, the county itself was heavily split up, so that's not ideal. At the same time, there were some areas of Anne Arundel and Howard that at least are compact, or at least seemingly compact or contiguous. And then Prince George's and Montgomery, the heavily, like Montgomery may not look as favorable, but they look like, at least if they were crabbing population centers, that they might at least be in the spirit of the DC oriented markets and the Eastern Shore. But
I had a concern about this one as well. It's Howard County is now in 5 different areas of the state. Montgomery, Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Prince George's, it's all over the place.
Yeah, Baltimore County has 5 splits.
Yeah, the donut configuration around Baltimore City just doesn't make sense, doesn't make for a compact district at all for that light green.
It will probably more be characterized as a croissant than a donut, to steal Dr. Hetherington's terminology.
Right, this is our map humor. It's coming out now. I see it's the hours are wearing on.
Yeah, also, it looks like it's just too much Anne Arundel County in Congressional District 5. That's a lot. And I think it's unfair to Anne Arundel County. I really do.
If there are no further comments, we can move on to 1016. The colors are different here, and it may make it harder to interpret, but notice that there is a split in Upper Carroll County, and I'm going to take the prerogative of the first comment to say that if there is a consistent complaint about the old gerrymander that I've heard, it's that Carroll County or parts of Carroll County should not be lumped with the Eastern Shore. It's a recipe for non-compactness, for making it difficult to represent the different areas. I think there's an interesting concept here of in the DC area of doing the crossover district between Montgomery and Prince George's in such a way as to wrap around the entire city border. I don't think we've seen that in other maps, but that doesn't mean that I would view it as a good map overall.
Would agree. Chair Olson.
Any other comments?
I also flagged this one. I did like some of the aspects around DC, and it was just different, something we hadn't seen before. And I didn't know if we could explore that further. But as far as the rest of the map goes, it's okay. I'm following it. It's just not the perfect map, but I feel like we could use part of it.
I agree with Kim. There are definitely parts of it that are intriguing.
Before we move on, Judge Williams, do you have any, as the other representative of the two close-in DC suburban counties, do you have a view of how this would be received in Prince George's? Does it reflect?
Well, I probably adopt the same comments that Kim has made. Yeah.
Okay, any further comments, or should we go on to 1021?
This is another one where Howard is in multiple congressional districts. If I'm viewing this correct, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Parts of it on the western part in Congressional District 1. Most of that I'm okay with.
Well, to me, it gets too cute. It has the look of compactness, but it just does at least one more county split than it really has to. I think if you're going to split Carroll vertically, you need some better upside than this, is my view.
Yeah, I think, Walter, what you said, I think it probably gave me a little bit of a image of compactness or geographic kind of separation, but with respect to political subdivisions and counties, and as Kate said, Howard kind of gets significantly chopped up, as does Baltimore County and Prince George's. So in those respects, it's probably not as favorable.
Yeah, I agree with Jay. I agree with Jay.
I'd also say Baltimore City is, unnecessarily got a slice taken out of it just to be added to Baltimore County, which really doesn't need the additional population.
And that split wouldn't in the city doesn't make sense either.
There's no need for it. Any further comments, or should we move on to, I guess 1024 is next.
Ten 24 is another example of Howard County being in 4 congressional districts. So big no to this one.
I don't know why the drawer of this map did not rotate the Baltimore City district a little bit and relieve that problem or some other problem, but it's the problem is definitely there.
Right. All they did was move the part of Arundel from the southeastern corner to the southwestern corner that we pulled from Anne Arundel and bled into Howard County.
Any other comments? Are we ready for 1027?
Yeah.
Well, I have the same comment again about Howard County. I would love to see some submissions where I think it seems like big chunks are taken care of first, and then when they get to Howard County, it's like, okay, let's just split this up 4 different congressional districts, which just doesn't make sense. But there's still time to submit, so public has some views on that. We'd like to hear them.
Yeah, I think Howard and Montgomery, obviously, and Baltimore get significantly chopped up here. I think I was looking at Baltimore City and seeing that it was going out to the southwest and into Howard. Didn't like the part that it went into Howard, but I thought if it had to reach out, can it go to the west and southwest? Is that the right direction? So it gave me something to think about. And I was, willing to understand that maybe, that the Southern Maryland piece climbs up into Prince George's and Anne Arundel, and that may just be the reality of something that splits up this way. But So.
Yeah, and also it looks like the 5th congressional district from Southern Maryland up through portions of Prince George's takes in a lot of Anne Arundel. A lot. That's just too much. Too much.
Are we ready to move on to 1034?
We're at 1028.
No, 10,
I think 1028.
1034. Oh, did we do 10? I thought we just did 1028. Or am I
We just
mistaken?
did.
1027, 1028 are the same, kind of like 1035,
Okay,
1036,
all right.
and 37 were duplicated. I think 27, 28 look the same to me.
Okay.
1034 is next, I believe.
Yeah.
William, we need to hear from you.
Or not, because we know it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, this one, Howard is in
2.
2, which seemed better.
But Baltimore County is in 5, which
Yeah,
does not seem better.
yeah, that's not, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough on Baltimore.
Any more comments? Otherwise, we'll go on to 1037.
This may be the same as 1036, so I think it's the same one we saw earlier, if it's the same.
Oh,
It seems to be the duplicate.
we didn't see 1036, I don't think, but oh, you mean saw earlier? Oh, right.
Yeah, when we brought it back. Yeah,
well,
and I
in the
think,
public comment section, we did see this map,
and that's why
but we haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's a duplicate of those two, because I think it got recognized as being the same submission.
Yeah, it. I mean, the first thing that jumps out is that Anne Arundel was divided into 5 pieces. And
Yeah, that's worse than now, so I don't think that's the goal.
4 is bad enough, 5 is worse.
Is that Charles County split up?
Yes, it is a split of Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is the one thing about this one that has some value is when Baltimore City is contained in its whole unity and extends to the east through Baltimore County, it picks up that rest of the important international port area, the Dundalk Marine terminals, and then extends also down to that area of Sparrows Point in eastern Baltimore County that is now becoming another hub for transportation. So as an expansion place for Baltimore County, for Baltimore City, I did like that, picking up that southeast piece.
Any other comments?
We didn't talk much about crossing the bay among ourselves, that is. And I don't know if you want to reserve that for another time, another conversation.
Well, that's a good segue into something I was going to bring up anyway, which is that there had been talk that we would move from what we're on now, which is analysis of public maps, into the question of should we be trying to finish a base map or even vote on a base map tonight. And there was an impression at one point that we were going to do that, but one of the commissioners asked us not to go so quickly because another proposal or two he thinks ought to be considered and maybe within the next day. So I would like to respect that by saying if we stop here, we've still got a good amount of discussion done of the congressional maps. We can take up as early as Wednesday the next steps of what do we think of more radical changes like changing to cross the bay with districts. What do we think of other thorough revamps to switch to a different base idea, and on from there? If we stick with the existing map, are there refinements or tweaks? That was a discussion that we might have had tonight, but again, not everyone is comfortable deciding that as early as tonight, and I'd like to respect that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Walter, and I want to say to our listening audience that we have really looked at all of the maps. I have looked at every map that has been submitted by the public, and I think that we probably can reserve any further questions or discussion about crossing or not crossing the bay, maybe for Wednesday. And again, everyone has important views. I've taken into consideration everyone's views, and I'll think about it again the next day or two. I'm going to try to submit myself a couple maps, deviating a little from our base map that we have, but we can save that discussion for I think Wednesday. From that standpoint, and give everybody another couple of days to reflect. And as I said, I want to make it very, very clear that everyone's views are very, very important. And that's what I like about this commission, that we've all respected. We've respected each other's views. And I hope that we can continue to do that.
Okay, and let me echo Judge Williams by giving a big thank you to all members of the public who submitted maps. We know how much work this was. We benefited tremendously in our mission from being able to see your work, your ideas, and your contributions. So thank you once again to all of the members of the public who did this. And we also realize that more maps are yet to come in. That window is still open.
Walter, before we end, could we also give a special thank you to Maria and her team who stepped in, and really appreciate the how agile they were pulling the maps up and dealing with some of the chat conversations. Who we have asked for civility, so hopefully people will maybe the next go round be mindful of that. But you've done an amazing job, so thank you, Maria, and thanks to John and everyone else. Doug, very nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hetherington. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Maria.
And
thank you for bringing that computer to my office also at College Park.
Oh, not a problem, Judge Williams. Not a problem at all.
At this point, I'll take stock. We are at 8 o'clock. I don't know whether we are also down to having a relatively small number of meetings in which we have to finish a whole lot of business, including moving on to the delegate maps. Unless someone squawks, I'm going to take it all as consent to move on and try to get some more business done. And the business that we had talked about giving priority to, we need, I think, to change our plans. We were going to address the Baltimore area Senate districts, but without Commissioner Brooks here, I don't think we should go ahead and do that. I think we need to wait for a chance for her to participate fully. So there are a couple of possibilities. There are districts in Howard County that have changed since we last saw them, as Professor Persili has drawn a couple of new versions. We might be able to get a quick consensus on that. One possible downside is that they might tie in with Baltimore County in certain ways. So I don't know whether that's necessarily the right thing to do. The other thing I would bring up is Montgomery County, which we were going to tackle next. And before everyone signed in, I asked Jonathan whether it would be okay to begin our conversation, and if we are lucky, maybe reach a consensus on the 8 Senate districts that will fit in Montgomery County. It would be a big, important part of the map to get done. We've had some discussion of it already. And is that an acceptable way for people to go to move on to discuss Baltimore County and see how far we get with it tonight?
Walter, I just wanted to say I'm fine with that. Just to let you know that I will not be able to attend the Wednesday meeting because it conflicts with my final meeting with my Board of Trustees. So I have to give priority to that. But Professor Basile and I have been emailing back and forth with ideas about Howard County, and he's come up with some really great ideas and acceptable to me. So if that moves for whatever reason to the next meeting, I've already given my feedback that I'm in support of what he's come up with.
Wonderful. And I think I may have seen some of those maps, and I share your and his view. I think that county is well on the way toward something well deserving of consensus approval. But Professor Persily, we haven't had a chance to hear from you much this evening, but you know Montgomery County well, I believe, and now we are all ears. You need to unmute yourself.
I thank you very much, and I've enjoyed this this hearing. Let me think. Well, let me show my screen. This is going to be the most recent map that I have sent around. Well, I guess it's the penultimate map that I've sent around. This is one that does not that has this way that it addresses Howard County. But the Montgomery map has been, as you can see, everything's been brought under 2% deviation. And so let me just, I think we've discussed it before, but I'll just sort of, I'll call up the kind of census places here so you can see what area we're talking about. So, you know, the way that this is constructed is that you have 3 districts in the middle, one that is Germantown, one that is Gaithersburg, one that is Rockville. The one change since the initial draft is that Rockville now is sort of oriented in taking North Bethesda. Bethesda and Potomac are basically their own district. Bethesda is just a little bit split down Wisconsin Avenue here. And then there's this area to the west that it picks up. We continue to have Friendship Heights, Chevy Chase, Kensington, most of Silver Spring and Tacoma Park in one district. Okay. And that we've discussed, that's sort of a interesting question, whether that's the right answer. But District 13 is this is what I was asking Gloria about earlier today, right, is about retaining the population in one district as opposed to maybe going over the county line. So this is a roughly 40% Hispanic voting age population district. Okay, and so it unites the Latino communities all the way up here going down. I mean, it's a long district, but it's relatively compact as these things go. District 7 is, Eastern Montgomery County. And that basically is it. I want to say just generally, since I've sent you several drafts of different maps, now that I've pushed it down to under 2% deviation, these are extremely tight maps. And by that, I mean, if you add another principle, if you add another change, it has cascading effects around the map. And so that's not a problem. You can contain all those changes in Montgomery County, for instance. But in doing for instance, I just, as we were here, tried to see if we could solve the St. Mary's issue. And the answer is you can solve any issue. You can, but there are trade-offs. And so the trade-off there is one more district that would go from, a district that would go from Prince George's County into Charles County, for instance, to pick up the extra population if you were to unite St. Mary's, just as to give you an example. But here, if we want to just talk about Montgomery, this is the basic philosophy behind this version of the plan. Do you want me to go on? Or, is that right?
That sounds good. Comments from commissioners.
I have one comment just in general. I know we're down to the 2%, but it seems that we are overpopulating the dense areas of urban and we are underpopulating the more agricultural, less urban counties. Is that just sort of the way it works out when we get into these tighter percentages?
So it's not consistently the case. But the thing is, once you have Montgomery County as one unit where you don't have any that are crossing the border, then all of these have to be overpopulated, right? It's just the way that the math works. But you'll also see that. So I mean, Prince George's, this is just as urban as Montgomery County, but these are all negative districts. So it really just depends on the number of county breaks. And so,
what do you mean by negative district? Forgive me.
I'm sorry, say that again.
What do you mean by negative district?
Negative. It has fewer people under perfect population equality. So each one of these numbers underneath the district, right? Like negative 1.87% means it's 1.87% below perfect population equality. And these districts up here are 1.51% over. Okay. I mean, these are all, just so we're clear, just in the kind of like pantheon of census, these are all basically equal, right? The census, we're a year after the census. This is basically equal districts at this point, or at least that you can't really tell their level of inequality. But just to Commissioner Clausen's point, right? Montgomery County is going to have overpopulation here. With Prince George's County, it's under. Here it is over. But you look at like Baltimore, and there's some that are under, some that are over. And you do have in the Eastern Shore. Let's see here that these are negative. And I can also change. I mean, for example, the problem. The population percentages on the Eastern Shore are almost totally governed by this split here, right? So if I were to take District 45 and bring it up a little bit, right? Because you'll notice this is over populated. Then I could flip all three of these districts to be over, perfect population equality and make them positive. And so we can easily.
To get back to Mary's original question, which was about population differences within Montgomery County, I think what she was getting at is, isn't there a way to maybe take one precinct away from District 10 or District 8 and attach it to District 6 so that the more rural part of the county doesn't seem to be winding up in a different population category than the more built up parts of the county?
So I thought about doing that. So this would be the natural one. We can do that. That will push it above 2%. As an example, I could try to do, that one will do it. So then 6 is over. So that would do it if you would. So you'll see then 6 will be 0.95% over and negative 0.56% will be District 7.
Mary, would that satisfy your concern, or?
Yes, that was what I was wondering about, since that seemed to be the one that was hurting, and they were already a rural area with a big area but a smaller population.
Well, just since you used the word hurting, just so we're clear, generally areas want to be underpopulated, right? Because then you're overrepresented. So, but nevertheless, we can easily solve that problem. So should I make this change?
Why don't you go ahead? It will answer.
There we go. Leisure World, there'll be. I mean, for now, I've given you other versions that we need to look at, for Howard and like, I'll remember that, but I'll remember that concern. So now this one is underpopulated.
But at the same time, because I don't have a large scale map in front of me, I didn't want to break up Leisure World. If what you had done before was keeping Leisure World in one district, give it back to them. Don't break them up. So without the detailed maps, it's really difficult to make precise.
Well,
concept.
this I think does put Leisure World pretty much, I mean, the Leisure World's not obviously an incorporated municipality, so Leisure World's, okay, it's right here. It's actually, Leisure World's unaffected by this. It's a little area right here next to it.
Let me ask a couple questions, and that's with reference to the Voting Rights Act. What's the implications of the Voting Rights Act in Montgomery County and also in Howard County?
Okay, well, none of the districts that are in Montgomery County are either majority Black or majority Latino. There is, but District 7, in fact, this may have been a change that we just did. District 7 is 38% Black and 17% Latino. So it's majority minority, right? And as is District 13, which is, as I said, 40% Latino and 19.8% Black. So we are keeping the minority communities together. As I mentioned, District 13 does a good job of getting the Latino community. In fact, if you'd like, I can show you the, but only if you're interested, I can show you what so by the way, this is the African-American areas. I'll just take the district layer off so you can see, right? These are the African-American areas in Prince George's County and in Montgomery County. So the African-American community is united in District 7 here. And then if we put on the, if you'd like to see where the Latino community is, it'll just take me a second. So I'll click off so you can see the area in Wheaton, which is a high Latino concentration, right? District 13 goes all the way from the border of Tacoma Park up through here, right? And that's how it's 40% Latino. The other areas you'll notice, I mean, like in Gaithersburg, there's a not insignificant Latino community, and so that is kept whole in there for the most part by respecting the city lines. And so this is why I asked, I keep saying I'm using her first name, but that's also because I don't know her last name. Gloria, as she was mentioning before, right? Is it important to keep the communities within the counties together as opposed to, say, crossing the county line in order to create even a larger Latino district? I don't think the Voting Rights Act requires that. In fact, it would be, we'd have to do some more research on that in terms of what would be possible. But this does better than the existing districts in terms of keeping the Latino community in Montgomery County in one district.
We can certainly ask Gloria to respond to that. And of course, anyone in the public can respond to that question as well.
Oh, is she still on?
I don't think she is.
No, Gloria is still on. Gloria,
she is. Oh, okay.
Gloria, if you'd like, I can promote you to a panelist if you want to answer that question.
That would be great.
Just send me a message if you're okay with that, Gloria. I don't want to promote. Oh, perfect.
She says yes.
Yes. All right. I should have promoted her. She should look. I just didn't want to promote her if she wasn't prepared.
And where in Prince George's is the Latino, high Latino population? Is that
it's spread out. One of the challenges, and I think in the current version,
Nate, your sound is messed up. If you can move the microphone or something.
My sound is messed up.
That could be Gloria just got on. Gloria just unmuted, so it could be that.
I didn't do anything. Can you hear me now?
Am I the only one having trouble hearing Professor personally?
No,
maybe if we just have one person speaking, everybody else mute will be okay.
Again, the question is there Latino, is there a heavy Latino district in Prince George's County? Is that 34?
So can you hear me okay now? Or is it still the problem? No, I'm not sure why. Let me see if I can change the settings here.
How about now?
Very good.
Okay. I use a different microphone. So basically, so let me just show the Latino community in Prince George's County and I think we still need to work on that in the current map, but you'll see that there's one community west of Hyattsville going up that is cohesive, and then there's another here in Riverdale Park, Woodlawn, Edmonston, and Lake. And so currently we've got, I think, 3 districts that are around 30%. Let me see. So districts 33, 34, and 35. I'm just showing here the statistics on Latino. So district 34 is 30%, district 33 is 37%, district 35 is 25%. Okay. And so we can try to get a little more in here. I will say that will come at the expense of this being, these are 34 and 35 are also majority African American. And so there's a bit of a trade-off between creating it's going to be hard to create a compact Latino majority district. And even if one were to do that, it probably would not be Latino citizen voting age population. But so what we've tried to do is try to keep the communities whole within these districts so that they have the kind of influence that Gloria was talking about before. But I think this is where we could value some public criticism or comment, is how best to cut up the College Park area and University Park, Hyattsville, and these areas, because those are the areas of high Latino concentration. And then just to be clear, this is area of heavy African American concentration. And so once you take out these areas or you move these districts to respond to that, it's going to change the demographics of the surrounding districts.
Professor Priscilla, you're right. The area of the Riverdale is heavy. The population is is growing in that area, as well in Hyattsville. There was a large increase, as you just mentioned. And I think that, of course, the Langley Park is usually we'll call that the Mecca of the Latino community. I think that that's something that we need to be finding a ways to preserve those areas. But Hyattsville and Riverdale are growing. So if any way that we can get those communities in some way to have a good representation, that will be great. What you did in Montgomery, I'm kind of don't have so much issue. I might be checking with some of my community leaders, but so far you are keeping them kind of together. So I think that's a good combination right there.
Thank you. And so just so we're clear about what we've done here, so District 33 does, if you'll notice, so this area of Hyattsville, Langley Park, and Riverdale is all in the district together. So it is all there.
Okay.
This southern Hyattsville part is not in there because then it's gonna, the hard part is that it would loop around and we might lose contiguity here. But that's something we can talk about, and it really depends on how compact the commission wants to make the district. So you'll see that this District 33 gets the Latino community that's here in Langley Park and west of Hyattsville, gets Riverdale Park. These other areas that are near New Carrollton, though, are in a separate district. So this is East Riverdale and Woodlawn and the like. And so thinking about the right way, part of the problem here is that there's also a trade-off between drawing getting all of the Latino population and then also respecting all of these little cities, because all of these are incorporated areas, and that's one of the criteria that the governor has in the commission. But if the commission wants me to do a little, even as a demonstration, to try to do what would be a somewhat non-compact treatment of these, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
But as we've done it right now, you know, District 33 is substantially Latino. It's now 37.4%. So we can probably push that up, you know, another few percentage points, but there may be trade-offs. But one other option, right, is that if you want District 33 to go down south to pick up like this area, which of high Latino concentration in Hyattsville, and it will split Hyattsville as a result, then Riverdale Park could be united in its own district. You would essentially rotate these districts around. But I do want to emphasize that this will have an impact on the majority Black districts in the plan. Because I've been playing around with this quite a bit to try to see if we can basically satisfy my concerns.
When you say an impact, what do you mean with that?
If we take out the Latino, so these districts are just barely at population equality, right? They're 1.36% under. And so if we take out the Latino population here, these districts have to find population somewhere. And so they can't go south because all of these districts are underpopulated, right? And so the only place to find people is up in the north area, somewhere here, and that is not an African-American area. So it's just something to consider. I mean, it's just a trade-off.
But then if you take that population, then their voices might not be diminished then too.
Who's
the Latino vote then, the Latino vote in that case.
If what? If
it's taken by the other, if we're adding to the heavily Black population, so there might not be an access for them. It will be kind of a
right. Well, and so that's why this District 33 that we have here, I think is, you know, trying to do as best as possible, because the areas, right, because there are substantial Latino communities up here also in Contera and some of these other areas. So it joins this whole area together, as well as going down to Riverdale. And so, you know, we can try to push it up a little more. Part of the problem is like the right in here is very heavily populated. Yeah. And so you know, in University Park. And so it's hard to include these areas in one district without including this, and then that diminishes the overall Latino percentage in the district.
Could I put in a word for how brilliantly I think Professor Persili has respected municipal lines? It is part of our marching orders. I know how hard it is because I've tried my hand at drawing maps in areas like Western Prince George's County. It is incredibly difficult, and I can only take off my hat in admiration at how he has managed to avoid some of the splits that I thought were impossible to avoid.
Thank you.
Professor, you mentioned earlier about the compactness of the Latino community, and how if we, I guess the word you use, sacrifice some of it to find some other pop. How much effort does it take to show the difference in what you're referring to? Is that something that we can show the public like right now, just so they understand the constraints that we're tied to when drawing these maps?
Tell me what would you like me to show?
You were mentioning about the compactness of the Latino community in that particular area that you're showing right now.
Right.
And how we try to pull down, the population variances would change.
Right. Well, so let me just show an example district, right? So if we were drawing a district that was trying to gather together all of the Latino areas that we've been discussing here, all the way to New Carrollton and these sort of in Seabrook and these areas. This is sort of the kind of district we're talking about here. Well, Okay, all right, so so part of it is we got to make sure that if you go to the border of Washington, you got to make sure that you get all of this. And so not all of this is going to be Latino, but you have to connect it, right? And so this is a district that is 51% Latino. Let me just push it down to where it'll be like population equality. So this is now 1.89% deviation, 52% Hispanic population, voting age population. And so it's like this, right? And wait, and I got to make sure I get that in there. And so in doing that, right, it breaks up University Park, Hyattsville, New Carrollton, Bladensburg, some of these other municipalities. And it's not, even though it's a 52% Hispanic voting age population district, this is going to be for citizen voting age population will be much less. And so that's the criterion for the Voting Rights Act. But again, this is something that I think the commission could consider and decide whether it's the kind of district that you'd like to try out. But there is a trade-off certainly with the city lines for sure, because there's all these crazy municipalities.
If I could suggest, we were not planning on making this much progress on Prince George's County, although it is certainly useful to get a lot of these thoughts on the table. Since we won't be deciding Prince George's County for at least one more meeting, maybe we can think about this and pick up the thread then. If we get Montgomery, Howard, we will have made tremendous progress for tonight, and we might not get Montgomery unless we get back to it at some point.
Okay, do you need me? Was that a cue to me?
Well, unless someone else really wants to pursue the Prince George's line changes in more depth, even though we have a future meeting that will be devoted to them. I was just hoping to steer it back to Montgomery County, the area that we hope to finish tonight if we can. And if no one else will say so, I like nearly all, with a few exceptions, of the suggestions in the draft map, but Montgomery County is just about my absolute favorite because I know how difficult it is to balance the getting each of the three central Rockville, Gaithersburg, Germantown contained within a district without doing violence to the other 5 districts in the county, and I think this does a brilliant job. Keeping the municipalities from being split is part of that, but this goes even further than that.
All of the 8 districts in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
Yes. If I had to point to one district which would be controversial, it's the district that goes from Chevy Chase and Friendship Heights all the way to Tacoma Park and Silver Spring, this sort of area here. But if you draw a district like this, and you have a district that has Bethesda in it, then this is what this is going to look like. Unless you wanted it to go very long all the way up to Rockville. I mean, the philosophy here is that North Bethesda is sort of oriented toward Rockville. This map keeps almost all of Bethesda itself in one district and all of Potomac in one district. Again, Bethesda, just so we don't overstate this, Bethesda and Potomac are not incorporated municipalities. So I don't think in the governor's order that you are required, but just as we think about the regions, the areas, right? These are examples. And so this keeps Chevy Chase is incorporated and Chevy Chase Village is, And so it does keep those whole, as it does Kensington up here.
President Priscilla, can you kind of discuss why District 12 would be controversial?
Well, I don't want to overstate the case. It's just demographically and like, I don't know. I don't want to say culturally. I've known this area quite well. You know, Tacoma Park and Friendship Heights are just, you know, they're both DC suburbs, right? They're right on the edge. I'm just saying, like, in the way that people sometimes think about Chevy Chase as being more united with Bethesda as opposed to Tacoma Park. But, you know, look, at that level of controversy, it's kind of like, you know, you can't, you know, it's not like we're talking about Yugoslavia here. I mean, this is, you know, these are actual, you know, places that are close to each other that you know, people go from one neighborhood to the other to get dinner and the like. So it's not that controversial. I'm just saying that I could easily see someone in Chevy Chase saying, "Hey, I want to be with Bethesda. I wouldn't want to be with the place on the east." So.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Walter, what are you looking for here? Are you looking for us to say we concur and then we can move on, or
well, I'd like to air if we do concur, then it would be great to get that closure. But I'd like us to go on airing any concerns or questions, any which we've had, you know, from a couple of different directions about possible things that could be improved, ways in which the map may not be as, you know, if we run out of those, and if all of the objections have adequately been answered, then maybe we do have a consensus. But I don't want to force that to happen too fast.
Yeah, it sounds like, unless we're getting really tired, that we no one is saying anything other than that. So my suggestion is that if we concur, then we allow the public, again, if they have comments on this, this is an opportunity for them to make those comments, and then either call it a night or move on to Howard if you wanted to move on to Howard. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm in the same place as Professor Priscilla. The one qualm is in 12 because Chevy Chase and Tacoma Park are like polar opposites in many ways. But besides that, the rest of the map, in my mind, for Montgomery County looks good.
What can we do with Silver Spring? What can we do with Silver Spring? Where is that?
Right
it's in
right
district. It's in District 12. I mean, it depends how we define the boundaries of Silver Spring, because it also
which part of Silver Spring?
Yeah. Part of it is in District 13, and part of it is in District 12.
Yeah, I think to comment on Jonathan's note about Chevy Chase and Tacoma Park, there's no place else in Maryland like Tacoma Park. So whoever you put Tacoma Park with is going to say they're not like us, which is good because Maryland is a diverse place. So I think, considering this county had precisely 8 districts, you've done a great job in formulating and keeping together the important municipalities. The only reason I would want to revisit Montgomery County is if something happens in PG County or Howard County to make us need to cross a border. But otherwise, I like that no border is crossed.
Any other comments?
No.
Yeah, I generally agree with what Mary has said. I'm looking carefully at Professor Vasili's statement a couple meetings ago that Prince George's will have 7.5 districts, which means that we've got to make a decision. Where is that other half going? Is it going into Anne Arundel? Is it going into Howard? Is it going into, or will it have to go into Charles based on what we heard tonight?
Isn't a part of that what we determine with Southern Maryland, though?
Yes.
I think we have to make a
I'll just
decision
say-
there before we can really determine where Prince George's has to cross over.
And that there are real voting rights concerns and thinking about that. So we just need to be aware of that. And so right now the current version has a District 32, that goes over into Fort Meade, right? And this is a majority African American voting age population district, right? That's the one crossing of Prince George's County. If the commission was interested, right, in dealing with what we heard today, right, so if you put all of this population back into District 41, that means this will be overpopulated. It means 40 will have to come down and 39 will have to will have to come and take the population here, right? There's no other way to do it. You can't just add back the population from St. Mary's that was taken in District 31. You'd have to go from Prince George's County into Charles County and make that crossing.
The small border between Calvert and Charles could be used for a crossing of districts conceivably, right? And then you.
Yeah, but it would go way in. This is I think I can tell you exactly. I think it's 18,000 people that we're talking about. This is a significant. This is why the folks are justifiably concerned. It's 15,000 people that's here. In order to make up for that, if you were just to go into Charles, right, you'd have to go about that far, so that you could essentially keep this St. Mary's whole. But then we'd have to rethink all of. Then this looks kind of strange. You could do it, right? Because this goes along the coast here, or along the water, and so you could take this part of Charles County, and then Charles County would have one full district and two parts of districts, and then this area in St. Mary's would be united. And obviously we could, I could try to get other parts here as necessary to try to make it more compact. But remember this, then you see District 31 would go down this way and then over this way.
I think more surgery would wind up being done on Charles because it's just, it doesn't address the complaints about lack of compactness of 41. It simply means that Nanjamoy is still in there. There are a lot of issues to talk about of reconfiguring Charles in such a way that there is no longer a coherent district taking in all of the Waldorf area and being oriented toward the fast growing areas that are more commuting into the DC area. That there would be a real risk of having to rethink that with who knows what sorts of.
Well, would you like, I can show you, I've done a map that does that if you want to see what that looks like. Would you like to see that?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just, so this is one that would deal with the St. Mary's, but this will require two districts that will breach borders in Prince George's County, one in the north and one in the south, just as an example. So this deals with we keep St. Mary's whole, right? District 40 now is in this direction. It decreases the Black population there a bit, but not to where it would violate the Voting Rights Act. District 39, and I could smooth this out a little bit, but then the population basically that was over here, right, is transferred into District 39 here. And then this has cascading effects all the way around the entire plan here. And so then you have a breach of the border with Prince George's County and Charles here, as well as one that's up here. It keeps the same number of majority minority districts that were in the previous plan. you'll see it changes the shapes of a lot of these districts up here. So this is a longer district. We could figure out, whether that's the right way to do it. But that's an example of what could be done in order to deal with the St. Mary's concerns.
Is the compactness score affected anywhere by this change that you just made?
Well, District 39 will be somewhat less compact, but I can try to work on that. I don't think the compact. I mean, it'll affect the compactness of this district here on some scores, but I tried to do this in a pretty compact way, and would continue to work on it if this is something that the commission was interested in.
I would be in favor of trying to keep St. Mary's County whole if we could. I think the arguments that were made were very compelling, especially the fact that St. Mary's County has one of the largest employers in the state, and having not having their representative in Annapolis split is a good idea.
I agree with that again, Mary, except that I'm not sure I'm in favor of Prince George's having to share a district with Charles County. I'd like to find some other solution from where Prince George's will go. I prefer it to go again in Anne Arundel at some point. So I'll let the professor work on that. I'm a little, I have reservations about Prince George's and Charles sharing a district.
Well, that is inevitable. Somebody's going to have to take the extra population in Charles County, right? And there's only three counties that border Charles County: Prince George's, Calvert, and St. Mary's. And so this area here, so once you put in this population into a St. Mary's County based district, right, then this is going to essentially suck down, from any of these other, so long as we agree that at least one district should be wholly within Charles County, then you don't really have much options except for Prince George's to go down, unless we do that strange district that I was talking about before. But that also, in some ways, Prince George's County is not disadvantaged by this change. With St. Mary's, it's Charles County that gets disadvantaged, because then you have just sort of a small population in Charles County that's locked into a much larger Prince George's County district.
Dumb question time. We are loud and clear from the citizens of St. Mary's County tonight, and they stated their arguments very well. But my thing is, what's stopping other counties from making the same argument? And how do we decide this or that?
And that's the $1 million question. And I'll say this, which is that now that so if you make a change like this, then the question is, will that activate folks in Charles County who will say, look, we shouldn't be split up into three pieces, right? Or now that, this pushes the Anne Arundel districts up more. So you are exactly right that is always the way these redistricting hearings play out. And I don't even know what else we might have done up here that has had an effect on these communities. I mean, for example, I still tried to keep, I believe Glen Burnie Glen Burnie is a little bit split, but it's largely in here. We can see this is probably not the ideal way to draw this district that goes all the way from the Baltimore border almost down to the Prince George's County border. And that is a result of keeping Crofton in the same district as Annapolis, right? Because we heard you all expressed to me some earlier testimony that you heard about trying to keep Crofton whole, even though Crofton is not a municipality, it's an area. And so you can think of different ways that we could do this. You could push District 29 up toward Glen Burnie. You then push District 25 down to take in Crofton. You put, this, it just depends on where you want the Annapolis district to go. But also, I mean, in terms of like the governor's order and the constitutional provision dealing with split counties, generally speaking, we try to minimize the county splits, right? And that's what the previous incarnation of the plan does. But, if you have two splits here, that's, I don't think that would be deemed unconstitutional. It's just that it could be avoided.
I guess my point was St. Mary's County does not even exceed the size of a district. Therefore, splitting a county that doesn't need to be split, maybe there's a better way. On the other hand, we know that Charles County has to be split because it has one district and about a third. So Charles County can have one whole district, but population's got to go somewhere else. And whereas St. Mary's doesn't even have a whole district. So why are we carving them up?
Yep.
To kind of add to that,
Makes sense.
Is it possible? What is it? Is that Calvert County? The current map takes a piece of Calvert County in with St. Mary's, and it seemed like, based on the reaction we've heard tonight, people actually like that. Is that, yeah, is that something we should be considering again? And that allows Charles to be more intact.
No, well, it won't. I mean, you're still going to end up having to deal with the XX population. I mean, if what you're saying is, should District 41, instead of going into Charles County, go up into Calvert and essentially split Calvert, then this Prince George's County, district would have to go all the way down here. This is a voting rights district here, just so we're clear. This is a 52% African-American district. And so District 39, would have to take up a significant amount of the population here for this to go into Calvert. And I'll say, obviously, throughout the plan, you see plenty of counties that get split just because of population. So Caroline County is below a Senate district, but it's just, in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So that then when you come up, you just have to make a decision on where to draw the split. I will circulate this map. Like I said, this map I think is still very much in draft, but to see how what you might suggest in terms of dealing with the St. Mary's thing change. But just so we're clear, right? It affects everything in this region. When you make that move and keep under 2%, it is going to affect every single district that you sort of in Prince George's County and then up in Anne Arundel and even up into Howard County.
I guess it depends on to what degree it impacts them. And maybe if you tell us that the next time you meet with us. I mean, if you're talking about by us keeping St. Mary's intact, going to affect 5 other counties, am I hearing you right?
Yeah, but I've already done that. So you can see I've already made those changes. So you can see here what the impact is and also how we might deal with it. So the area of most obvious concern is the most obvious thing is what happens here in Charles County. And then beyond that, thinking about how to deal with the area south of Baltimore.
All right. So just for my point of clarification, you mentioned Howard. What would happen with Howard by keeping St. Mary's intact?
So District 28 goes up higher into Howard County. I tried to do it so that it gets almost all of Elk Ridge. This little area here is none of it. And so the district that shares Howard. Now, remember that I don't know whether this plan is the one that you like or not. This one splits
At this
Columbia.
point, my eyes are crossed. I don't even know. Whatever I said to you in that earlier email,
Yeah,
I
well,
liked.
so this one splits Columbia, right?
Oh,
It splits Ellicott City.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't
change
think
all-
this is the one you showed me.
This is one that doesn't have it going all the way
Yeah,
down.
the later one shows 14 sliding around under Columbia, taking Highland and Fulton and Skaggsville.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I do think it's important to try to keep the Columbia Association together and not split Ellicott City too badly if it's still possible to do that consistent with these other changes.
It's always, that's one of these things it's always possible to do that. I can even unite them. The problem is who picks up the other population, right? So you could have District 28 coming down through here, for example, District 14 coming through here, then District 27 comes up into Ellicott City. All of these are possible. It's just trade-offs. And the main trade-off at this point, when you do that, is compactness, right? Because you're just, but that's okay. I mean, these are relatively compact, but you see District 14, if it goes down basically to North Laurel, right? It goes from Carroll County all the way down. I'll just show you.
Yeah, Mike, can you pull up that one that I said, this looks good? Please.
So, should I put the colors on? I'll put the colors on.
It's the one where you had Columbia and Ellicott City joined.
Yeah. Well, but let me. So here in this version, Columbia is basically all together in one district.
Right.
Ellicott City is District 14 goes from Carroll County all the way down to North Laurel.
Yeah.
And then
I misspoke. It wasn't joined with Ellicott City.
Well, but there were in a previous before we did the 2% deviation, you can and frankly I could do that. You just can't do all of it.
Yeah.
If you split, this is basically a map that keeps Columbia,
intact. But that portion of Columbia or Ellicott City that's joined to Columbia.
Right here.
Right there. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, look, I can do more with this, right? If for example, you take District 28 in this version. Now, this is very different than what we were just, you can see now the changes that needed to be made from this map, right? From once the St. Mary's change happens, right? So this goes up, this comes down, this goes up. District 25 then went across to get this area. District 28 then goes up, right? Those were the shifts that happened as a result. But none of them, I mean, you can still do this this pink district could come up and get all of Ellicott City. If we brought District 14 down even further, right? But then it'll be even more non-compact because it would go in south of Columbia, right? Similarly, if we take District 28 and move it this way, we can push District 14 up and we can put Ellicott City or more of it in with District 14, right? It's just about rotating the districts. And it's like, there's no right answer here. It's just a question of like, what value you think is most important in the map. But
I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in.
Can I just ask, as our Howard County rep, do you like this, the way that this goes
I
in?
do.
Okay, all right. So then that's important data for me.
And I'm sure anyone from Howard County who's tuning in feels differently, they have an opportunity to say what they think. But you're right, Professor, this is a constant matter of trade-offs and trying to make sure that we're listening to the public. I think we all concur with what we've heard, unless somebody feels differently with what we heard from the folks from St. Mary's County tonight. I mean, it was pretty powerful testimony. And it helped highlight some of the factors that we may not have all been familiar with.
One thing although I know we don't want to jump into a Baltimore discussion right now, I just want to highlight, and Commissioner Clausen was sort of talking about the issue with the ports. This version of this map also has the incursion coming in from Dundalk and getting much of the harbor in Baltimore, as opposed to in the other map where it goes from northwest Baltimore City up into Baltimore County. And so this is that also affects, all the districts around here. But I thought I would give you two options, well, at least two options when it comes to Baltimore.
Well, I think Kate has pretty much captured it all. It's just a matter of trade-offs. And just don't know where I am at this point. But if we want to honor the county we heard tonight, then there's going to be some adjustments that have to be made. It affects a lot. So we have to rethink that and to see how we can accommodate so many different interests.
Yep.
So,
one of the challenges now, and this frequently happens in redistricting cycles like this, which is that we now have several different versions of maps that are out there. And it's not clear to me which pieces of the puzzle I need to put together. So we don't need to do this right now, but it would be useful to get an email from you as to what you would like to consider our current working map. I've been assuming that our current working map is the one with the under 2% deviation that I sent out on Saturday. And then this is an alternative to that. But if you all are of one mind as to particular changes that you want on that map imported from here, or with the St. Mary's change, please tell me. But
can I say that I think there may be a consensus for the Howard County changes. I realize that 17 is in flux based on what's going on down south, but the 14 and 26 arrangement seems better than the one that was sent out a couple days ago. So if that particular advance could be made.
Okay.
Let me ask Kate, because Kate, I'm not sure I know Howard County that well. Is this radically different than the districts?
Well, one district does have part of Carroll, the western part of Howard County, which is, if I'm saying this correctly, Professor, they're still part of Carroll, and Howard County joined in the western part, right?
Right here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to, because Carroll County, we've respected the Carroll County Frederick border, and so you run out of population.
Yeah.
We could add a little more, one more voting district to Carroll County, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and Columbia is, it's not a city, but it's has quite a sizable population. So I think keeping that intact is important, and it's practically intact.
Right.
And then Ellicott City, I don't think any of Ellicott City, I mean, that was what the original hope was, but then again, you get to these trade-offs. So Catonsville, I think it's Catonsville, Arbutus, they're all joined together. That's actually part of Baltimore County, Catonsville and Arbutus.
Right. Well, this is the challenge here.
Yeah, and Ellicott City's in there.
Right. And so, for example, if you were to do, so I've been operating under the assumption until we dealt with the St. Mary's issue today, that if possible, there should be only one crossing of a county, right? Baltimore County is the only sort of exception to that because of Baltimore City here. But so, for example, if you wanted to have more than one district that went up into Baltimore County into this little area, right? And you can choose any one of these districts, but some of them are going to then, you know, go in a kind of non-compact direction. But that would unite Ellicott City. And one thing I was paying attention, I know there was some concern about the Asian community in Ellicott City.
Yeah.
And most of it is, I'll just show a little bit about.
It's along Route 40.
Yeah, it's not completely within District 27. If we could figure out a way to make this go a little farther, then it might be more united. And that's one of the things, like if District 14 goes down right to North Laurel here, that we can rotate these districts around a little bit. But it's basically right around here is the Asian population.
Up in that northwestern part?
Here, I'll call it up. I'll just take the districts off so you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not like it's huge, but these are the areas that are more heavily Asian. And so the district gets basically this part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so this area is kept, you know, because they're sort of separated on these two areas. So this part of Ellicott City is kept whole.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with this. Jay, you do work in Howard County too, don't you?
Oh yeah, in Ellicott City area, but it's really Columbia. It's just an Ellicott City zip code. But I you know, without insulting anybody from Ellicott City, it's really kind of some of the areas that Professor Priscilla just showed to me. If I've seen them right, and I'm pretty good with maps, just visualizing. That's like a Western Ellicott City, kind of going out towards Turf Valley and Marriottsville.
Right.
And
yeah.
And I would imagine that maybe even post-pandemic, there's been quite a bit of migration of that population into some new home construction in those areas, and some other kind of demand in that situation. So that may just be a more recent influx in the 2020 census or what have you, but it may be a very accurate reflection. So it does kind of stretch into that District 14 as currently constituted, even if it was historically back a little more eastward along Route 40. I think it just continues to stretch further west along the Route 40 corridor. You know, kind of Marriottsville and some of the stronger school districts out that way.
Yes. Well, they're all strong in Howard County.
Yeah, that's quite true. That's quite true.
Not to mention the community colleges. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. All right. I think we're good on that part, Professor.
Professor, just one comment. Most of us are working off these PDF maps to understand what's going on. And when the county boundaries get obliterated by all the other lines, it makes it easy to not remember. I mean, it makes them hard to pick out, especially when there are little nuances of whether it's following a county line or whether it isn't. Is there a way to, I don't know, use the color palette or a bolder line so that we always know when we're crossing a county line?
Yes, and so you can see, I tried to do it here. I can do it as dark as you want. The problem is, then you're going to be confused as to where the district ends and where the county begins. But I'm happy to do, you know, I can.
Or maybe when you do your smaller page size maps, maybe have a county version like you've done for some of them, so it's very clear where the.
How about that? Is that good? Or more?
It's a little better, yeah.
That's a little better, but
I can do it as dark as
you have to look around.
Really just your preferences as to how dark you want it. So there, and the part of the problem is when you do the colors for the districts, it ends up, overshadowing some of the county lines here. But I can, yeah, as whatever you want, I can easily do.
Additionally, is there a way, if there is a split in a district, to have two spreadsheet columns so you can see what the different population is in those two counties that's making up a district?
I can certainly do that. I can give you a report.
That would be useful, especially where we're going to have county splits in these rather complicated areas potentially.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
This is going to fall into the category of be careful what you wish for, because the report I'm going to send you is going to be, 50 pages, just because it'll have every district. But I'll show you in the next meeting or before we can talk how to read it so that you can zero in on I think what is your concern, which is which areas, how much of a particular district is in one county versus another. I don't want to dominate the discussion here, but I don't know whether you want to.
Walter, where are we at?
Well, we've made some progress on Howard County. I'd like to drive people kicking and screaming back to Montgomery County and say, should we have going, gone? I mean, we're going to treat this as a map that's been through some deliberation, and there's a presumption against changing the Montgomery map from where we are here. Going.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Let's
maybe just check with anybody else who's not fine.
Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to treat this as a part of the map that we now mostly have consensus on. I would also like to, if I could take, it may only take a minute, but if you go up to Frederick County, where I live, the changes for the 2% thing, you may have noticed that the district centered on the city of Frederick, which used to point more south or even south by southwest, has moved across, and instead of taking in the mostly rural areas west of Urbana, Adamstown and so forth, it now goes down the corridor of Urbana itself. Now, I wanted to point that out and invite Professor Persili to say a few words about it. I know that people in Frederick County are going to be interested in this. I see a rationale for doing it this way based on things like density. I can also see people objecting, but I just want us to talk about it a little so that people in Frederick aren't too surprised.
Well, so this was simply driven by the population needs. And so to get under 2%, you'll notice that what I said at the beginning, which is that these are now really tight districts, right? This is barely under 2%. This is barely under 2% here. This is just at 1.4% under. And so that move was driven by a desire to get under 2%. I can see, I can't remember, yeah, and also compactness. So just to, if you want to see what a different district configuration would look like, we did that, and then right, so then you can just see District 3 is, but District 4 is still over. That's a population center, so you can't do that. And we can't do, and the other option is to go, and we don't want to create a donut district. And so, or even a croissant district. And so as you see all the options, if we're using whole precincts, then it's very difficult to do it in any other way than the way that I've done it there, just because it just doesn't add up. If we break precincts, then there's no challenge. But right, as it stands here, we would need to find another roughly 2% for District 3 in order to bring it up. And that's just not going to do it right there. It's close.
I would say just keep a reservation in mind, because if we have not heard any reaction on this, it's not the end of the world to break a precinct in order to move back toward the other way of handling it. But as I say, there are pluses and minuses either way, picking up Urbana versus picking up the areas to its southwest. I'm not going to pronounce one to be the right and one to be the wrong way.
Could also do this, by the way, if you wanted to add one more precinct back in to equalize these a little. I don't know if that does anything, but that would make this district 1.92 under. And then we could shift around probably, but it would, again, this is again the cascading effects, right? So we move this here, we move this over, we move this down here.
I don't want to take a lot of people's time on this for an issue that may not be as critical to them, but just wanted to flag that so that people have a reference who want to follow what's happening with the Frederick County part of the map. Are there any other parts that that we feel we can tackle, given the parts that we've agreed to set aside for future times? Is there anything in Anne Arundel that's worth looking at?
I think if we're going to talk about Anne Arundel, we got to think about whether we're going to do the St. Mary's change, because that affects everything.
I have to say that both the current map and the changes you discussed with Southern Maryland changes, but both seemed okay to me in Anne Arundel, but I don't know Anne Arundel, of course, as closely as a couple of our other commissioners. So Jay and Mary, did you notice either in this map or in his suggestion of where the districts might go, anything that bothered you or seemed off?
Yeah, so much of Anne Arundel County is built up in the areas where the lines are. I really haven't had a chance to take close enough look to see if there's any minor modifications. But right now, Anne Arundel County should have should have 4 complete districts, and then there's a partial. So it looks like we've got 4 and 2 partials.
You've got three complete and 3 partials, I think.
Yeah. So if we could get it back to 4, that would be better.
Well, so again, this is the St. Mary's change will only it'll pull this district down a little bit, but it's still going to be a split there. I don't actually see a way around that, because the District 28 is basically an Anne Arundel district. It just has a little bit of Howard here. For me, one of the big questions in drawing districts in Anne Arundel County is whether you join Annapolis, this district going east-west, or if you have it go north-south so that it continues along the shore here. And that I could have, and then you would have more of a central Anne Arundel County district. This is sort of like what I was doing before where 25 came down. I really struggled to keep Crofton in a district. And so this seemed to be the best way to do it. But if you have suggestions on what the right answer is, and part of the, if you look throughout the map, and you can see up here in the way I did this with Baltimore, also, I'm really trying to obey the water barriers when possible. But you could, if Crofton were to join in with one of these other districts, you could push this district going up more along the shore and gathering in each one of the sort of fingers that comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Professor Prisley, you raise an interesting alternative. I mean, that's something maybe Mayor and I might be favorable to at least look at. All of the water-oriented communities probably share, some cultural, similarity. And the West County typically I found is a strong kind of community, if you will. So Crofton and Odenton and Gambrills are very intertwined, I think, in terms of business and residential areas. So there could be more of a north-south, like you said, orientation with the water, the bay-facing communities, and then a north-south kind of inland off that might be maybe as far east as maybe only Crownsville or Millersville, Gambrills, and Odenton and Crofton. So there may be a little bit different way to slice and dice that. I know the other version where you had 25 stretching down, it is challenging in terms of that being a little bit more linear and stretching from literally Baltimore City, Glen Burnie, and I guess Brooklyn Park area all the way down to Odenton. But that may be the only way, like you said, that one would work. So in this version,
but I can try two different. I mean, this is also where so District 32 I've had as a bit of an anchor here, right? Because it is the crossing from Prince George's, and I'm trying to keep the demographic percentages constant there. It's a compact majority African American district, but but there are several different ways to skin the cat. The problem is that this district here is the roof on the district. So you basically can only rotate these 4 districts, right? And so basically what I'm hearing from you is that what I should do is move, let's see if we can move 30 all the way up here. I'll move the blue district in to get Crofton, and I'll try to create a district like right in here, right?
Yeah,
and then
pocket,
this will probably, the problem is that this district might end up being somewhat non-compact, but I'll try to work through that, and we'll see what can come of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question as well with the Fort Meade and that's PG County split there.
Right here, yeah.
Yeah, there. What the population from the Anne Arundel side is versus the population from the PG side.
And then it has a tiny bit of Howard County also right here.
Yeah, that little piece in there too. Yeah.
I'll just show you, I mean, the total amount of population here of this part in Anne Arundel County is 61,000 people, which is basically half the district, 47% of the district.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then,
have we aired enough concerns for tonight? I think we've discussed almost every part of the unsettled map except for the Baltimore area. And some of it we just need to accept we need to put off to future meetings. Anything else that people want to say tonight, or should we adjourn until Wednesday?
in my role as giving homework, thinking about the right way to go into Baltimore City next time would be a useful inquiry. I know we need some of our Baltimore commissioners are not here, but whether to go in, and then there's again a lot of different ways to do this. This one goes in to get the harbor and united with Dundalk. The other one went down and had Northwest Baltimore going up. So anyway, there's my professorial moment.
Judge Williams, would it be fair to say that if we tackle Baltimore and the remaining congressional map issues on Wednesday, that we could postpone Prince George's consideration until the give it one more half day and take it up at the noontime meeting the next day, or would you like to take Prince George's up on Wednesday?
No, we can wait. That's no problem.
Okay, well, let's tentatively say that those two things, the Baltimore districts and the trying to finish off the congressional map, will be the chief agenda items for Wednesday, if that's okay with everyone. And if we have extra time, we'll do more. Okay, we have one further agenda item, any new business and commission discussion. Does anyone have anything with redistricting criteria, which I fear we're just going to have to put off to a later meeting. But is there any new business that people wish to introduce? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, wave your hand or say aye. Aye. See you Wednesday.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you to the public for your
Yeah.
patience.
Yes, thank you.